voicemail's
You
full.
left voicemail for her? I heard.
Her voicemail is full.
I remember. I thought.
Yeah,
man.
she called my
Okay.
office yesterday, but I was at home, and then she emailed me, but I didn't call her. Yesterday, I was gonna call her today.
Stephanie, heads up.
Sure, be careful. Tell your baby, congratulations.
Nobody's gonna take him to like rehabilitate him or anything, so I hate to say it, leave him out there, maybe the parents will find him. We got, keep him kinda close to the building, but in the bushes or something. And maybe they'll work that when they'll crawl up in the bushes and come back to him, so that they.
We're going to Santa Banana.
We are.
Communicate kind of.
2.5 minutes.
They'll find him.
Did they say she was coming?
I thought she was coming.
I did, you're doing a good thing.
Okay.
I talked to her again last night.
We have 3 minutes.
I love.
You and her, you know.
Look, yeah. You military guys come in real early and on time.
Well, like I say, if nothing happened with it, I mean,
We're going to Charleston this weekend,
I mean, there's nothing I
but
can.
my buddy,
Where did it come from?
I have no clue.
he just finished building
Kathy, the other day at the
really
water
nice
department
cabin.
meeting, Cheryl Matlock was sitting right there, and that light cover fell down.
I know she called me, she came by and told me I had to,
there. Whoever's renting from this
got him
weekend
out here to
canceled.
cancel.
So he's like, hey man, you want to just go up? And
I
I'm
didn't think it hit her, but it
love
scared her.
I'm already going to that one. Really love
Actually
to.
scared everybody. It was really loud.
Yeah, some opportunities pop up and it's just, oh, look out the calendar, I've already said yes to this.
That was just really
Okay. Can you lead the invocation?
Yes.
You lead the pledge? Yes, sir. Okay. There she is.
She brought me some breakfast. I got coffee too. And stuff I Starbucks before I got here.
Oh, I know, you let it stand. Oh, that. Animal shelter stuff.
Here we go. I'm calling the meeting to order. Welcome to the Spalding County Board of Commissioners work session. It is Tuesday, May 24th, 2022 at 8:30 a.m. I'd request everyone to please silence your cell phones and all electronic devices. I'd like to ask Commissioner Dutton to lead us in the invocation and Commissioner Bolden to lead us in the pledge to the flag.
Please stand up for us. If you'd all bow your heads and pray with me. Our most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, Father, we come before you this morning as leaders of our community in order to do our best towards the citizens here in Spalding County. Father, please bless us with thy spirit, that we can have the knowledge and humility to go forth and do what is best for this community. Father, please help us to be bold and yet be of a spirit of unity and be able to know the difference between what is right and what is perhaps politically expedient. Father, we ask a blessing of safety on all of our first responders and all those that are in harm's way today. We ask a blessing on those that are in war-torn areas, whether they be Eastern Europe or otherwise. Father, we ask a blessing of security on our families while we're away from them. And all these things we do humbly in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
If you would, please join me in the pledge to our flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. As a reminder, today is a work session. Item number 4, agenda items. Number 1, consider on an amendment to the Spalding County Board of Ordinances, Division I, Laws of Local Application, Part 2, Governing Administration, Chapter 12, Code of Ethics, appealing conflicting ordinances and part thereof, and restating the code as modified by this ordinance. Dr. Ledbetter.
At this time, I would ask Stephanie Wyndham, our county attorney, to present the ordinance for us.
Okay, after lots of time spent in work sessions and discussions back, a couple of years ago, in January of 2021, I had prepared a memorandum to you all regarding the ethics ordinance and revisions to and also additions to the ethics ordinance. The ethics ordinance that is in your materials is brand new, completely restated. At Dr. Ledbetter's request, I did split it into a new section, Chapter 12A, taking the conflicts of interest section and making it an entirely new chapter, separate and apart from the restated ethics ordinance. I hope y'all have had time to review it. I know the memo that I wrote to you is over a year old. Nothing had changed since then, except that the questions that I had asked, I'd not really received any answers to those. So there may be changes that you want to see in this that are not included, just because I gave it my best effort based on all the meetings that we had and my notes and memorandums and review of ethics ordinances from Henry, Pike, Butts, and I believe there were a few others that we looked at as well when we were going through this ordinance. So if there are questions, I mean, I don't want to spend a lot of time just telling you what you may already know. So if there are questions, or if there are things that you want to dive deeper into particular sections, then we can certainly do that.
I'm having a hard time opening mine up here on my computer. Can you open yours up? I did get a chance to look at this a little while back, but I kind of like to get it in front of me again.
I say let's just start with section 2, because I have some concerns about that.
Okay, sure.
During the public portion of the public meetings and public hearings, members of the Spalding County Board of Commissioners shall not. First of all, everybody on this board will be in an ethics violation because everybody speaks without being recognized by the chair.
Sure.
So is that an ethics violation if you do that? I think that that's inappropriate for, if this is defining what a violation,
That
an
is,
ethics violation is.
the ethical consideration section is what actually defines an ethical violation.
So I don't understand why this part is in here. If it's not, I mean.
It's in here because it was in other ordinances that we looked at, and when we were going through it, people thought that having these kinds of guidelines was a good thing to include. But if you want to clarify that these are that these are guidelines and not ethical violations, then, I mean, that, we can certainly do that, but yeah, I mean, everybody, except maybe Commissioner Bolden, speaks without asking for the chair's recognition.
So, item number 6,
On-
where it talks about confront anyone about a prior statement in an accusatory manner. So,
Where's that at?
my stating something to you, even if it's factual, may be considered accusatory by the person who's getting the fact. I just think that some of these things
Well, I
like
don't
that
think
are
you can
never-
take, yeah, I don't think you can take a sentence out of context, and in that one, you have to take the entire paragraph. Basically, the last sentence, it's not a trial where persons are cross-examined, interrogated, belittled, or held out for public ridicule or embarrassment. I think that's the final explanation of what number 6 means. But
Well-
again, we don't have to include conduct during meetings if you don't want to. That was just
No,
something that was included in
Then
there.
we just move that from the end to the front. Cross-examine, interrogate, or belittle anyone about prior written statement. You see what I'm saying? Like,
Because in the public portion of the meeting, and I just spoke without being recognized, in the public portion of the meeting, we don't talk to people. So this is not a portion of the meeting, and I'm not saying this against you, this is not a portion of the meeting that is for county commissioners, representatives, and members of the public to state their comment. This is only for everybody else other than us to state it. So somehow, that kind of blurs it up for me in the public portion of the meeting.
So here's what I think that particular paragraph is all about. And the reason that it is in the guidance for other counties. I think it's because people do get into debate with folks that are standing up there for public comment, who might say something that maybe they're not really supposed to or shouldn't say based on our introduction to public comment and our requirements for citizen comment. And I think it's more about, it's not about you talking to me or even you talking to Steve. I think it's more about you going back and forth with people, either in the audience or that are standing here, because I think meetings, you've seen them on YouTube, ours don't usually get at it, yeah.
I totally understand that, and I understand that that's why we have a disclaimer in our meeting, and that we are not going to comment
Right,
during the public portion of the meeting. The public portion of the meeting is clearly for people in the public who have signed up to speak on issues that are relevant to us, and clearly, no commissioner will make a comment. So I'm I see what that's saying, but I think it could be more succinct in that, yes, I think we should know that this is not a trial during the public comments, but that portion of the meeting is for citizens or representatives to make their public statements without any response from us, or that, commissioners will not respond to any challenges or statements during the public
You just
meeting.
next.
It'll be referred to the county manager.
All right,
So,
Rita?
I guess to be clear, when we read the disclaimer, every meeting, every regular meeting, we're talking to the citizens, and the citizens, we're allowing them to have their 3 minutes speech. And they're not supposed to come after us, okay? We tell them that.
Yes?
But yet and still, we're not able to answer any questions or go back to them. So this I hear is actually saying that if that does happen, of course, we have to rely on the chairman to stop that. But we are still held to the point where we can't go back after them if he does not or she does not. Is that what you're saying?
right, and also, they ask you questions point blank, and then they stop talking and stare at you, waiting for you to respond.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
So-
clearly they
Yeah.
didn't understand what.
So
the
maybe
disclaimer was.
the change needs to
'Cause they're
come
not listening.
maybe the change needs to come in how we actually say that 3-minute public thing. Maybe we should let them know, you can't attack any of the commissioners. The commissioners will not be responding to you at this meeting
it's in
of
there.
anything. Is that in there?
That's
during,
all- that's
during
it.
that portion, we can
I
respond
missed
at
that
the end of the
little line,
meeting.
though. I somehow or another missed that piece in there.
So,
My bad.
the public portion of the meeting isn't the public comment portion,
No,
is
the
it? The
public
public portion
portion
is
of the
the
meeting.
entire meeting that's not an
Mhm.
executive session. So
Right.
even in the end, in our, commissioner comments, we can't say, let me tell you something. Like, I think some of this needs to be just reworded. Like this whole idea where, it needs to focus on like breaking the rules and being rude or inappropriate. So like interrupt someone who has the floor. Like there's reasons and appropriate parliamentary ways to do that. A point of order is an interrupting of someone else who has the floor. And if this would make points of order an ethics violation. You see what I'm saying? As written.
It would
And so
not.
like interrupt someone who has the floor. You see what I'm saying? Like
It wouldn't. These are guidelines. These aren't ethics violations.
but if we're using these as the metric,
We're
if we're
not.
saying
You're using, ethical consideration, section 2-12005.
so when it says during the public portions of meetings, sorry to break number 6 here, commissioners shall not, and then we give a specific example, interrupt someone who has the floor. Doing that against our ethics rules that say commissioners shall not would still not be a violation, even though our ethics rule says they shall not do that.
These are, conduct during meetings and conduct outside of meetings.
So really, even though these are guidelines, there's nobody can be held accountable for anything, because these are the guidelines, these are not the ethics that
The,
we're.
the ethical
part of the ethics.
considerations
She said they're
are what, what would be considered a violation, but absolutely.
Then there's
we-
no reason to
if you-
have that
if
whole
you-
section.
If you want to, I take no pride of authorship, because this came from you guys, the public,
Yeah, yeah.
and other communities.
We're not mad at you. We're not.
So, no, I just, this is what I want. I want y'all to tell me what stays in, what comes out, what you like, what you don't like.
Now, if you
Because
all-
we hadn't did it before, I get it.
If you all remember, we had a red book that said this is how meetings will be conducted. Do you all remember? I don't know if, Ryan, if you ever have seen the red book, but there's a red book we've got that said this is how meetings will be conducted. Stephanie, you're aware of it? Okay, yeah, there's a red book I was given, and there's a few copies in there, and it talks about this exact same thing. So the issue that we have here is just take out 1203 and 1204.
Or say that these are, guidelines.
Guidelines.
But I'm telling you, like, people who want to
File an ethics complaint is
are gonna watch our meetings and go, you interrupted, and like just tick, tick, tick,
But
tick,
even
and
if
go,
but even if these are listed guidelines, they're guidelines, they're not.
they're still gonna,
But
like,
they can't do it, I mean, I don't think they can do it if it's a guideline.
Well,
Well,
if it,
No?
You
Legally?
can't stop people from having a complaint about anything.
No, you can't.
I mean,
That's
you
right.
can say
You
I
cannot.
burped too loud,
Right.
that was inappropriate. So, but then someone has to go back and look at it and say, well,
Right.
that was not appropriate. So to keep people from making frivolous, and I don't mean that in an ugly way, complaints,
but yeah,
I agree with you that maybe this portion says that behavior is not accepted during the meeting by commissioners, speakers, blah, 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 blah. And that would just say something different other than conduct during meetings, because what this basically says is what you can't do. But I have a problem with it because since it's one of the first things that you see,
Yeah.
I think that people will go to that and
Yeah.
start looking for the things that we're doing. So, not that it's not appropriate, but I just don't think it's appropriate right there. I think getting
How
to
about
the
moving
meat-
it to the back of it, the last
Well,
thing?
I think it also needs to be softened.
Abstention to conflicts of interest.
shall not without good cause, shall not without reason interrupt, blah, like if I'm just over here interrupting and making okay, that's one thing, but if I go, whoa, I think we're, that was a reason needed, you know what I'm saying, like, or,
So-
same thing, the building catches on
All right,
fire
so
and we cuss
do
as we
move it,
leave, like,
or do we
we're, you know what I mean, like,
move it, eliminate it, or
Can we just chew on whether or not it needs to move or?
sure.
Okay,
And
I think it definitely needs to be reworded.
Give us a guideline, Stephanie, we need a
But I think-
guideline on that.
Yeah, and I think saying, like, beginning the sentence as with the word generally generally, comma, during the public portions of public meetings.
Yeah.
Um,
In general,
and you can
blah,
also.
blah, blah, commissioner shall not without cause, blah, you know, without
Yeah,
good cause.
because nobody should be in here doing any of that. Commissioners or people or, I mean, so it's not necessarily, it's the behavior during the public meeting.
Correct.
You know, either not acceptable behavior during a public meeting, or this is acceptable, but this is not just, I think this should not just be the Board of Commissioners, it should be people speaking
So
to
we
us,
can add employees.
presenters, anybody, cause, yeah, we don't want people thinking anybody thinking it's okay to use profanity, not that just we
Absolutely.
can't use it.
Right.
So,
And, yeah.
All right, so during the workshop at this point, we're going to, what's the word Gwen said, chew on this a little while longer.
Yeah.
And we'll decide whether we're going to move it to the end, eliminate it from this portion altogether, or if we're just gonna change some wording in here. Or
This guy
change
needs-
some
this
wording
guy
and
needs
move it
some
to
real
the
love.
end.
cause it could be, really quick, Mr. Chairman, generally during public portions of public meetings and public hearings, members of the Spalding County Board of Commissioners, employees, presenters, and citizens shall not, without cause, do these things,
Okay,
or without good cause.
all right, so let's forget about the meeting part. That's not what the heart and soul of what we're trying to get to is. What we're
Right,
trying to get to
right.
is talk about our ethics.
Right.
And as I understand that, we're gonna start at 12:005,
That's right.
all right? Here are my thoughts on that, so everybody at least starts the ball rolling. On number 10, the public office is a public trust. I think that's pretty heavy words for us. You're it all the time.
Which one is this, Clay?
This is A 12005.
Okay, alright.
All right, number 10.
And
item.
most of
Hold these
these, I
principles.
will tell you, you are required to follow regardless, because they are Georgia law.
Cool.
Okay,
So,
all right.
the public trust, we have to physically understand that that's the issue that kind of is gonna go on. Number 13,
Okay, so, not what's?
I'm going from 10,
Oh, okay, you're just telling us the things that you got a concern with.
yeah, that I thought were unbecoming. That's a big term in my Army career, conduct unbecoming. That's a,
It means nothing to me.
absolutely, and I understand that. But somewhere around here, we're gonna talk, I think in a few minutes, about what's the difference between what this says and what our old one said. And we've had, you know, let's be honest, Don was up, had it, Gwen's had it, James has had it. I wanna kinda go through and play through those, and say, what's changed between that and this one? My big belief is, so everybody understands, we're 24/7. I just wanna make sure I think we're 24/7, but I think there has to be some kind of way that we can also say things as a person, an individual. I just don't know how to balance that out. Stephanie's taken a big shot at it to try to say that in there. And it gets into, down in the bottom of page 4 to me, and the top of page 5. The key word to me is discredit. Can everybody see where I am?
There in
That is a very, yeah, the second paragraph.
Social media, C.
Okay.
And then on my next page starts off with discredit them or the county or adversely affect. Discredit's a pretty, it's another one of those unbecoming terms. We don't understand.
Because we can disagree, and then at some person's mind,
Yep.
if I disagree with something Clay says, I've discredited Clay.
Yep.
So that might be
And then further down in that paragraph, it says, they are
maybe
held,
purposefully discredited. Like I'm specifically trying, that my intent is to undermine you as opposed to.
they are held at a higher standard, which is pretty important to me. I wanna make, that's to me is the key issue. I talked to Gwen, who's been on it longer than anybody else. And no matter what happens, anywhere Gwen goes in the county, she is still a commissioner. she can't hide. I mean, we can't hide because all of a sudden, that's the essence of what I'm trying to get through this thing. We can't just all of a sudden say, oh, I'm gonna say I'm Clay Davis and I can say all kinds of things that are hurtful. That's the essence of what I want this to say, so, all right, go ahead.
To a higher standard regarding behavior, public behavior, use of profanity, use of obscenity. I think, you know, when you start talking about what the higher standard is, you need to have a measurement. Higher standard than you would expect from the average citizen. Remember that you
Yeah,
are
higher
a
standard than the
public
general
figure.
Correct.
So, you know, you are still a human, but you
You're
are a
human too.
public figure.
That's correct.
So when you're in the public, there's certain stuff you just should not do, if you can help it.
Yeah.
And if you can't help it, you probably don't get ethics.
Well, and let me just say this, throws as an example. I was at Ingles over the weekend. The guy was actually getting some drug, whatever, medicine at the pharmacy. I don't know what his issue was. But he saw me coming down the aisle. I know I'm on the shopping cart there. He knew me. And he made this big display about, oh, you can blame your county commissioners and Steve Ledbetter for all of this. And he said it real loud. And as I was walking down there, like he was going to follow me, I just turned around, looked at him. Just looked at him. Just kept right on walking. And he just kept, and he didn't say anything else. Now, you know, maybe the right person at the wrong time or whatever, that could have been a big deal. Or got me on the wrong day. How about that? You know, I'm just trying to say, but knowing that, I knew that I said I'm not gonna, number one, feed into him, give him what he wants, give everybody what they want. I knew that I was held to a high standard. So I wasn't gonna do it. But it's hard because we are human. I mean, so, but we have to understand that.
And that's the key issue to me, right there, that's the key issue. We're held to a higher standard, whether we like it or not.
We like it or not.
You raised your hand, you swore an oath, we're held to a higher standard. And I understand that somewhere there's freedom of speech. And we all have feelings about specific topics that we want to express.
And I know that conduct unbecoming is kind of a sticky issue because it's something that we can't really define. But that paragraph is also something that is in the Georgia Code. It is never engage in other conduct which is unbecoming to a member or which constitutes a breach of public trust. So we can't leave it out. It's in the Georgia Code.
Yeah.
So in our definition, then perhaps behavior that is unbecoming needs some definitions.
That's true. What is
I mean, we
unbecoming?
talk about it a little bit up there when we talk about
Just lay it out.
behavior in the meeting, but clearly, as a point of reference, just like we got who's the members, unbecoming behavior, or behavior unbecoming of whoever we are, should be defined. You know, no disrespect.
Are we
to
gonna be able to define them
citizen.
all, though? I mean, that's kind of hard. Are we gonna be able to list?
Well,
You
so-
gotta talk about purpose and intent.
Intent.
You
Well,
can't,
yeah.
like, you know, cause if I say something that,
Well, yeah, I mean.
but if I go, I take offense to that, well, I didn't mean to offend you, man, like, you know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah.
But like, if I say something that's like, you know, like, wait a minute, you can't, you know, there's a difference between, you know, that intent and not
Right.
intending, you know,
Right,
like, so.
And
That-
I purposefully did not include a definition for conduct unbecoming in the definition section because I couldn't find one.
That's a judgment too.
So I think for us then, in setting our ordinance, we need to look at what we think is behavior that is not acceptable by us.
And see, in the old one, we had that, if you remember. We had 10 things or something, if you all remember, that we said,
Right.
that's the violation of those. We're eliminating those.
We're not eliminating, they were the ones that were required by state law. They're
Yeah.
still in there. They're the same ones that are here.
So all
They're just
I'm
others.
saying is that because there's such a broad interpretation of unbecoming behavior, different in the military, different at school, different in the police department, then we can at least set some basic for what, you know, you can't unintentionally cuss at somebody. You know, we
Yes, you
all
can.
would
I don't know,
never-
I disagree.
Well, yeah, well, what I'm saying is that we all know that we can speak English. We were able to get elected, so we got enough sense to know that that's probably is not the wrong word, that's the wrong word to say. And if we can't get it out, we just probably need to just ask somebody what I'm trying to say.
But again, I think the issue isn't what words we're trying to say, but like the emotion we're trying to convey,
I would
the
say that.
intent
I
behind
would
those
say it
words,
too.
right? I mean, I can cuss at you in Dutch all day, and like, and if my intent is to hurt your feelings, I'm not gonna be able to, because you don't
don't
speak Dutch.
understand that.
But if I say something that's not cuss words, but
That you're
really
trying to park
mean,
trash.
Yeah, exactly.
you see what I'm saying? Like, my
That's
intent still,
derogatory.
you see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I think that has to be the underlying current, is like, you know, intentionally doing, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like,
Yeah,
with
I
the
can
purpose to
certainly say
blah,
that.
blah, blah, as opposed to, here are the list of words you can't say.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
exactly.
Like,
I don't
it's-
have a problem
Y'all
with
give
that.
some examples of what you think would fit into conduct unbecoming,
May-
because
may-
it is
whoa, whoa, whoa,
completely
maybe-
subjective.
Maybe shout out examples is not, I mean, we're gonna get, it's
I
gonna,
mean, I'm not
because
saying
then
that
they're all
I'm
ethics
gonna
violations.
define them as examples. I'm just saying, what do you think?
Like, you know, like intentionally, you know, slandering somebody, intentionally,
Thou shalt not lie.
yeah, you know what I'm saying?
So,
Misrepresenting facts, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, intentionally. I thought it was this, and I'm telling you it's this. Oh, you're wrong. Oh, I didn't know I was wrong. That's different. You see what I'm saying? Like, you have to intentionally have lied. You have to intentionally have slandered. You have to
so
intentionally have.
how does a board or a panel determine your intentions at the time that you said something? I mean, you got a camera.
The same way a jury
Even
does.
though your face might be saying something, that may, so
Sa-
that's
same,
why,
same way a jury does. That's why it's not.
yeah, that's why.
Yeah,
so-
that's why there is a panel. If it was obvious one way or the other, you wouldn't need a panel.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
Like,
That's why the
So,
panel-
so
that's
I
what the
can, I
jury's.
can get around that. I mean, I can get with that one, you know, that you purposefully or you willfully, da-da-da-da-da. And a lot
With
of the things.
intent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of the things that we talked about in that first little section, or many of the things that we are saying that you should not purposefully or
Purposefully, yeah.
intentionally curse at somebody, disrespect their family, interrupt the meeting,
Right.
talk ugly to people,
Right.
you know, represent yourself in public as the
disrespectful.
Board of Commissioners.
The word, just being
Right.
disrespectful,
So,
But again,
at
purposefully.
purposefully.
At
Like-
section,
Right.
12005, the ethical considerations, if y'all will look at B,
Okay.
and that B3 is not knowingly withhold any information that would impair the proper decision-making of the board, blah, blah, blah. And we could include in that, not, since it's not knowingly withhold, also not knowingly state information that is false.
I'm less concerned about that portion, I'll have to admit. Now, do we all kind of agree that we understand we're 24/7?
Yeah, when we're wearing the hat, like if I'm in the woods with my Boy Scouts, like I'm not. like I'm
No,
not-
I had to be when I was in Ingles.
You know what I mean?
You-
Yeah, sure, because you're in the county. You're like
Right.
there's a
That's true.
a situation going on.
Well-
But you know, when I'm shark fishing in the Gulf of Mexico,
Where nobody can get you anyway.
You're still a
yeah, but
county
you see what I'm saying?
commissioner.
You're still a
If
county
a citizen
commissioner.
of Spalding County,
If you're with
But-
your little
but I-
guys and you
Ran
say the
into
word
you.
crap, and one of them tells their parents that you said crap, and they think that that's really not a good word, you see what I'm saying? It can just roll itself into something.
Yeah, I
that's
don't
what I'm
think
saying. And like all of a sudden, it's like, hey, I'm out. with-
Now, I believe
Then
we're
that-
24/7. I want to make sure
I think
believe
there's a
that too.
possible possibility.
what'd you say, Quinn?
I believe that too. After two ethics hearings, we're 24/7.
I think there's the possibility, no matter where you are, and no matter what time it is, that you could represent Spalding County. I don't think that while I'm asleep in my bed at night, that I am actively representing Spalding County.
Oh, no.
I don't think you're automatically. I think at any given moment, you could be in a situation where somebody near you is talking about the county, and they're like, now I'm representing Spalding County. But like, I went to Ingalls yesterday as well. I did not represent Spalding. You know, like nothing came up. I saw your face on the buggies. You know what I mean? Like that said, if somebody comes up and goes, hey, I want to ask you a question. Now I'm representing Spalding County again, at the Ingalls. But like, by default, I'm just a citizen.
Right,
I think
by
I
default.
can at any given moment represent Spalding
So,
County.
an
But-
example, an example, if,
James is an attorney.
you're at Ingalls, nothing comes up about you being a county commissioner, but you somehow get into an altercation with the cashier or the bag boy because of, they broke your eggs or something.
Mm-hmm.
Are you not a Spalding County commissioner at that point?
I don't think
Does
I'm
your
representing Spalding
behavior,
County.
does your
But if you
behavior
start
not
raising
reflect
hell.
on Spalding County?
They're gonna say that's
They gonna
James,
say
they're gonna say
county-
that's
not
James Dutton.
was fussed.
the
They
county
gonna say that
commissioner.
County commissioner was.
Yeah.
Does your behavior not reflect on the county, no matter
It
where
does
you are?
reflect.
who
It does
you are with?
reflect.
It does.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I got stopped by the police on Saturday. Me. Did County Commissioner James Dutton get stopped by the police on Saturday because his wife forgot to renew her registration? Like, you know what I mean? Like, did I have an altercation with the police?
If somebody
I
has
did. I got
seen
stopped by the cops. You know what I'm saying? But like,
So I think
was I
that's the, but
representing
that's the
Spalding County
difference
at the
right
time?
there.
Like,
I think if had there
no.
been an altercation with the police, then you are James Dutton County Commissioner. But the fact that you got stopped because, something that happened in the household, you would not, then you're just an average citizen.
and that's what I'm saying. At any moment,
It only comes into play when something, let's say it, comes when
That's
something
something-
bad happens.
well, when it comes, it only comes into play when it comes into play. If he'd stopped me and I'd been like, you know who I am? Like, all of a sudden, it's in play. You can't, now I'm a. now
Because
I'm
you
a-
said,
Right.
you know
or if
who
he
I
stops
am.
and goes, James, aren't you county commissioner? Like, now it's in.
Yeah.
But if I'm just getting
Yeah,
nothing,
yeah.
then I'm not.
Or-
I think
Let's-
it could at any moment.
Let's turn Rita's situation around. What if he was saying that if you have anything to say about blah, 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 this wonderful thing, you can thank
Yep.
County Commissioner Rita Johnson and County Manager Steve Ledbetter. If that's turned around, aren't you still County Commissioner Rita
Yeah.
Johnson?
Again, it's risen to the level of county commissioner.
Any
It could be
time- But it's
positive or
good.
negative. I agree.
almost anytime we walk somewhere and we see people, the first thing they think about, they don't think James Dutton, they think commissioner.
Yeah. And
That's
so
the-
that's why it could be.
Yes,
at any
that's the
moment.
24/7 that
But
I'm
it's not
talking about.
automatic. You're not
Now,
you're not
Gwen-
carrying a campaign sign all the time.
Gwen,
Like,
walk
it's-
through this, because this is a big change for you. 5 years ago, you couldn't have made this conversation.
No. When you really look at, I look at a school teacher. I am pretty sure that my children's school teachers, when they would come along, really wanted to curse at them a lot of times.
Your teachers didn't cuss at you?
No. But they knew the other words to say because they're dealing with a child. They work in the education system and they're held accountable. And let's face it, if the teacher's out at a club doing a line dance and falls out in the floor, it's not gonna be Joan Jett fell out, it's gonna be that Griffin Spalding County school
Exactly.
teacher.
Right.
So I think I totally understand what you're talking about, because when I had my ethics complaint, I said something on my webpage, that
Yep.
even though the board determined it was my private webpage, look at all the crap it caused just cause I couldn't just keep my mouth shut. So
Our
I'm
fingers
saying
off.
that,
Fingers
I
off.
think if we can agree as a whole, that our behavior in public is reflective on Spalding
It is.
County, then
It is.
we can kinda,
Uh-huh.
I think it can be. Again,
well, I
let's
think we can say our behavior can
Can
be
be.
reflective on
I
Spalding
think
County.
it can be.
So we need
Look,
to-
look at that teacher. A teacher can't come to school and drink alcohol.
Yeah.
Teacher can't go on a field trip and drink alcohol. A teacher can go home and drink alcohol. A teacher can't go to a club and drink alcohol.
Yeah.
Like,
But a teacher can't post their picture on Facebook
But
drinking
they-
alcohol
exactly.
if they're at home or a club.
Because it's not the behavior that is expected of them.
Right.
And if someone else posts
It's
their
reflective
picture
of
at
the
the
school
club.
system for hiring somebody who drinks, a teacher that drinks in public, so
Right.
we're saying
but
the
you see what I'm
same
saying?
thing.
So it can be if
Right.
somebody takes that picture and posts. Now I've got an issue. I got to ask him to take it down. But like, just because I'm drinking doesn't mean, again, I don't drink, but I'm just saying,
Yeah,
using this as
yeah.
an example. So it can be, you know what I'm saying?
Well,
If-
So what
It
about
can
because
be,
the public
and-
views
and
our
it can-
behavior is reflective of the county?
It can be, and it can change just like that.
Yeah.
So it's.
Right.
It's almost impossible to say, here, you can't define when it's not.
Well, and that's why that there's an impaneled group.
And
That-
it is
like,
always
to
a public
determine.
trust.
Yeah.
Right, right, no, absolutely.
And see, the nice part about the new ethics is how we're gonna get it to the people who can make the who,
Right.
impartial, get it to the judges to be able to say, does this do it?
And you don't have to make that awkward decision
Right.
amongst yourselves
Thank God.
about each other.
Right, that's the
Right,
part I
someone-
wanted, I want to eliminate that.
Yeah, and the other part for me is making the language simple enough so that if someone chooses to file an ethics complaint, they can look at what we've said a violation is, and make their complaint based on that, not some nebulous, I just heard them saying blah, 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 maybe come back, it was a violation of the public trust because they blah, 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 or it was behavior unbecoming of the Spalding County, or they failed to recognize that their behavior reflects on Spalding County government. You know, something that says, I think just in the past, we would not have had some of the hearings, many that were dismissed because the people didn't understand what was accepted because the document was so nebulous.
Well, I also, I worry about some of the bright lines we're setting. Hey, stealing from the county, purposefully lying about, you know, like there's some things that are like, you can't do this. But like, you know, actions unbecoming, you know, is like, you can't say,
I can't give you a bright line though.
You can't give a
Georgia
bright
law
line.
doesn't,
Oh,
and
thank you.
that's
Like-
in OCGA.
right. Again, if it was all like, you can't do this, but you can't do this, then we wouldn't need a panel to just, you know, because it's like, well, this, you know, if I rob someone at gunpoint, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I've pled guilty to it, like, we don't need a panel. Like, we're done.
That's, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But if it's like, well, that shark almost bit James and he swore when he was on his vacation. Like, I think that's conduct unbecoming. Like, what? You know what I mean? Like, is it, like, you see what I'm saying? Like, everyone would be like, James swore? I can't believe it. But like,
After a shark bite?
yeah, right. So, you know, like, that's, the purpose of the panel is to determine if something is in the violation category or not.
Well, let's
So
just say.
we can't on paper put, here is this hard line. You can for some. Did you steal from the county? Then,
Right.
you know, but some are, you can't, you know?
So really,
And that's why this draft ordinance sets out what a complaint should include, the contents of a complaint, how you go about filing it, the right to respond to it, and what happens next. And in my head, we're
we walk
coming up
through
with
that?
a form that we can provide to someone if they wanna file an ethics complaint. Here's the form we want you to complete, and it sets out everything that you need to know about what needs to be included in this complaint. And that way, people aren't doing what they've done in the past, which is just write a letter that's not notarized. And people also think that just having something notarized means it's actually sworn. Well,
Yeah.
it doesn't. I want it to be in an affidavit form that somebody understands. If you lie on an affidavit, that's just, you're lying under oath. That's false
right.
swearing. It's a crime.
It's a
So,
crime.
you don't just get to,
Felony.
I can remember 30, 40 years ago when we talked about pornography, and we said, we'll
know it
recognize,
when
you
we'll
know
see
it
it.
when you see
when
it.
we
That's
see
the
it.
Supreme Court
Yep.
language.
We'll recognize it when we see it. Having a female body undressed, we have a lot of statues and stuff like that. Does not necessarily, but using it in another format is an entirely different thing. So some of it has to be, yep, this is, and I think we've got the right people now that we didn't have before, the judges, to be able to say. So I'm pretty pleased with the prima facie, or whatever the right words are, that there's something here. From that on, I'm all good with it, so everybody knows.
Yeah, we were talking right before it started, me and Clay, if you think somebody has committed a crime, you can go to the magistrate court and ask them to swear out a warrant on that person. To do that, they take your credit card number, and then they call a hearing. This person gets to come and say, this is what really happened, he's lying or whatever, right?
And then if the judge decides, yeah, this guy did commit a crime, she or he issues the warrant right there. If they look at this and go, this is nothing, like you've wasted everybody's time, right? This is not a warrant, then they charge that person like a fee. I think it's $350.
Well, so I included a filing fee
Yep.
Yeah.
of $100.
Correct.
And if your complaint is dismissed pursuant to the, see, it's section 12007, then we keep your filing fee, just to offset our cost.
I think that's
And-
that's an attention getter there. I believe so. And if I recall correctly, that's what Don was trying to do, I think, earlier on.
He wanted it to be, I mean, honestly, I just came up with $100.
Yeah.
There needs to be some
that's
kind of
good.
barrier
Because
for,
we didn't want it to be something that would
So
make it so
owners
people
Could not do
Right.
it. Right.
Felt like they couldn't file a complaint, but we also wanted it to be something that would hurt a little
Yeah.
if,
And most people are
If it
gonna
was
do that,
frivolous.
pay that $100 if they really feel it's valid,
Right.
you know, in their,
especially
in their
if it's
eyes.
gonna
They
get back,
will-
they're gonna
You
get
know.
back to it.
they'll get donations from their friends
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
file it if they can't.
But
come up
this,
with it.
if it's $0, people can just go in and go, he
Yes.
said A, he said B, he said C, like, and just
Just write
weigh
it
us
up.
down.
Yes.
So
Sorry,
by
I'm
the
not
same
grimacing at
token,
y'all.
I agree that there should be something that should happen. But, many of the people in my district who have a complaint against the county don't have $100 to file a complaint. So if we do charge people to file a complaint, I think that if their complaint is founded, they should have that money returned.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Oh,
the-
yeah,
Yeah, that's what it
absolutely.
says.
It says, yeah.
It says in here that they'll get it back.
That they,
Which
yeah.
shall be refunded if the complaint, to the complainant if the covered official is found to have violated the ethics ordinance.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah.
It's like a deposit.
First $100,
Right.
finding the $100 may be hard for them, but they get it back if it's in fact,
Yeah.
yeah. So, and I thought $100 was a good number. It's high enough and yet low enough to be able to
I'm
get
good with
by.
it.
In this ordinance, do we define next of kin or family?
There's something in here.
That is defined under,
It is. It's in
under
the
the
definitions.
code.
I think OCGA actually defines it.
Yeah, OCGA defines it. It's, parents, siblings, in-laws.
It's number
Children.
13 under definitions on
Adopted children,
12002.
natural children.
Oh, and I do define it too.
Yes,
Where is it?
immediate family is what,
Parents, spouse, siblings, children, stepchildren,
Which section,
in-laws.
Stephanie?
right at the beginning,
This is,
12002.
12002. It is,
Number
and
13.
I
definitions.
tried to put those in alphabetical order. That's number 13, under definitions.
Okay, all right, yeah, that's what I wanted to see, because somewhere it says down here, something, family. What was I looking?
Okay.
Yeah, so we,
Okay, number 5, under section 12005, never discriminate. I don't agree with discriminate unfairly. I don't think you should ever discriminate.
that's the reading of the Georgia Code. So
Yeah,
that whole
well-
section A is OCGA language that's
Never
required.
discriminate.
And
Unfairly.
people discriminate constantly, all the time, about everyone, all the time. Like, all the time. Like, women find this man attractive and not that man attractive. That's a
Yeah, I
form
mean,
of discrimination. Like,
there
there's
are a
just
lot of things
like,
that y'all are bound by in OCGA that I think
right.
really could use some better definition of what those things are.
Well, and that's why this says discriminate unfairly.
And
Well, I don't like
there's
this
not a
person
lot
because
of
they're
case
black.
law
Well, that's an
about
unfair discrimination. Like,
Yeah, but you don't
I don't wanna
know
date this
that.
person because they're, well,
You're
again, that's what the
stupid
panel
if you
is.
sit up in a meeting or you tell somebody, I don't want him because her hair is too big, or she talks too loud. They may say that, but it might just be because she's fat, or she's black, or
Mm-hmm.
she's educated. So that's what I'm saying.
Or she
Well,
You can't get in somebody's mind to
every-
know that that's why they're not picking people, so.
No,
I just
every
think
time the
discriminate.
state strikes an African-American juror, we then have to hold a Batson challenge and go, now tell me why you struck that person, and it better be for something that, other than race.
Well, there-
But you know what I'm
I
saying?
don't
And they
think
go,
that-
well, cause they, and you go, well,
How
are you?
many people have you ever come before you and they said,
But
I
don't,
don't wanna do this because they're black? or I
So-
don't wanna do this because they're Hispanic. Nobody's gonna say that, because that's the
Right.
wrong stuff to say. So
But
that's why I'm
this-
saying, for
this
me, it
does-
just brings a breath.
It does say, I mean, you gotta read past the never discriminate unfairly. It is by the dispensing of special favors or privileges, whether you get paid for it or not. And the whole point of that is the influence of you in your position as county
Mhm.
commissioners. So,
I lost my spot again. I'm sorry.
so
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay.
All right, so, let me make sure.
All right.
Overall, we agree we're 24/7-ish somehow.
We could be.
Could be
We
24.
could be. At any moment, you could be.
State legal, but,
I mean,
You could be representing.
Brian, what do you think? Ryan didn't say anything. What's your piece on this, Ryan?
I'm a 24/7 guy, I just,
okay. I think 4 out of the 5 of us think we're, and I'm willing
I think
to
you certainly
work
can
the
be.
work the words so that it says could be, you know,
At any
in there.
moment, you can be 24 hours.
I mean, I see the
change
lawyer
that
point too.
section.
Right.
I see the
Absolutely.
lawyer
Okay,
point.
okay.
Yeah.
No, I want us to make sure we're all seeing it. That's a huge step for us from where we were 2 years ago, or 3 years ago. Okay, now,
I just wanna thank y'all for going through this exercise. I really appreciate it.
all right, I'm,
Thank you.
truly, once we get past that portion, 2012-006, the rest of it I'm pretty good with.
I
Is
mean,
anybody?
I really, I want, we had thrown out several different, scenarios as far as the ethics review panel, so
Yes,
I really
yes.
want y'all to look at
We do need to look at that.
what I chose to
Right.
go with here, and make sure that it's okay, because we did have one comment from Jason Maddox, I believe, that, when we were coming up with folks, the organizations that
Yeah,
they could
yeah.
come from to make up that panel, and he basically said it should be a jury of your peers, not the elite in Spalding County, and I don't think we were necessarily looking to choose the elite, we were looking to choose those that were involved in our community.
So the first thing I said when I looked at that was like, these are all old white men.
Oh,
I'm just saying, from where I sat and read this, I was like,
How many old white men are on the chamber board?
Rotary, a homeowners association, which means that if you live in a leased or rented place, you're not eligible. I don't see anybody saying anything about the AKAs here, the NAACP, the Urban Outreach, the Masons. These are all social organizations, but not on this paper. So I can certainly see where Mr. Maddox is coming from, and that this group, then it says a member of a local military organization or executive director. Yeah, those are the same
Well-
people that come to the table all the time and make the rules.
Or board member of a nonprofit with an office in Spalding County, which would mean
And board member.
all the Masons.
Well, but I'm saying, how do you know that it won't be that board as opposed to the,
So you don't know anything, and we can certainly add to this,
I'd say add
because this
to
is
it.
the list.
Yeah.
This
Well,
is
what
the
I'm
list
just
where they're
saying-
gonna come from.
but when this happens, it will be, these are the group of people that we can choose from, and I just think that in terms of.
And then you got number 8 too.
Yeah, in terms of.
Which is
really
anybody.
hitting the larger part of the community, there's really nobody here on here that's involved in industry. There's nobody
8.
here, you know, I'm just saying, for me, this this list looks very Anglo. I don't see a place where Hispanics can be represented.
So
8.
let's add to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
I
don't,
mean, I'm not saying that it has to be these, but I think that the list should just be
Broad enough,
expanded.
broad enough.
this was a
Pick a
big change for us, changing it over to organizations. Remember, in the original ones, we didn't have any organizational one.
correct.
We decided in a conversation, the board said, we need to have these types of organizations in here. So this is a big change from where we were a while back. And Gwen, if you wanna add, pick out 4 or 5 more that you think are appropriate and put it on the list, that's all good with me.
Okay, yeah, I really.
I mean,
I
urban
think it's-
outreach is covered in 7. The Masons, AKAs, those are
only
nonprofits.
thing
They
that-
have offices in Spalding County.
I guess my question here is, of course, I'm on the member of the Chamber of Commerce Board, I get it, but like, kind of like what Gwen's saying, somewhat, okay, there, it says number 3, a Kiwanis Club board member, a Rotary Club board member. I think
I think those should be rolled into 7, because it
They
already
should be,
says.
they should be all, because my thing is, why specifically
Why are we
them?
called them out?
We've got a lot of organizations here that we're all affiliated with, not just Kiwanis and Rotary.
Yeah.
And the issue to me is
Yeah.
may
Could-
include.
Well-
You know, that doesn't mean it will include, it may include.
7 says board member of a nonprofit with an office in Spalding. So there's no reason to say board members anywhere else.
Yes.
But things like member of a local military organization, or member of the Bar Association, member of the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
Again, that's board of directors though.
Right,
So,
yeah.
boom. You see what I'm saying? Like, if it's just, you can have any lawyer, right? Because that's, essentially member of the Bar Association. Like, then that's different than board member of a local nonprofit. You see what I'm saying?
Many
Yes.
of the people that are in our community are members of multiple members of these groups.
Mm-hmm.
And so my point that I'm making is, I think when you start listing specifically the Kiwanis,
Right.
the Rotary, the Hospital Authority, is a military organization really the National Guard? Is it Military Affairs? Is it Waypoint? So I'm just saying, when you start naming stuff.
Very
it
general, needs to be
close
general.
down the group of people, and,
Honestly, I'm great with eliminating 1 through 4, because especially number 2 gave me heartburn. This was just the list y'all were throwing out when we had our last workshop on it.
So, and again, an officer of a homeowners associations are a form of nonprofit. So once again, you've got the same, that's covers in number 7. I mean, at least ours was in Hillendale. You know what I mean? Like,
The issue is, we were trying to get organizations. Before, we
Involved,
didn't have
right.
organizations in here. And we said, let's try to get from organizations, not just individual people sticking their hand up. Because remember, we used to pick out of the hat and all that stuff?
Right.
Well, we eliminated that concept.
Definitely.
We're eliminating that concept, or not eliminating, but this, also, these kinds of people can be on the panel.
so understand, I understand what you're saying, but I think that, I still argue with Mr. Maddox that this list excludes a large portion of the community. If you, and I know it says something, a member of the community, or.
That's number
Right.
8, and I
Okay.
think that would be
Interested
something that
citizens.
we would have to actually put out there. If you're interested in serving on the ethics review panel.
look, just like we do with any
So,
other board.
everybody else can come in under that list, but only interested citizens who've been voted on by a majority vote of the board. So I know, hopefully, all of these people could be on the board, but we shouldn't be voting on anybody who's gonna be on the panel, because we're trying to keep our hands out of it.
Don't we have to vote on any of these?
Yeah.
We have to choose the people, don't we?
We have to choose the people.
I think, no, remember, we used to just each one of us put in 3
Right, with
names.
names and, yeah,
And then
Right.
we picked them.
right.
All we're trying to do with this, as I thought, was say it doesn't have to be individuals. We can also have organizations can send somebody if they wanted to.
Yeah, you actually though make the list, and then where it goes from there,
So when the
it's out of
list
your
comes
hands.
in, we'll vote on 5 people to go on there.
It
Okay.
used to be individually, we're
Right.
not gonna do that anymore.
Right.
Used to be you provide your own.
So I like what Stephanie is saying, maybe 1 through 4, we can combine those, or make, and make that a lot broader to
1 through 4,
include.
just roll into 7. because
Yeah.
And
it really
9
goes.
as well, church is a nonprofit.
Yeah, but
a
the
member
member
of
of
the
a
clergy.
clergy is not necessarily a board member, right? So like a Baptist church would have like a board of deacons.
That's always good to have
But
somebody
like-
like that in the group.
But like,
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, having
But
a
they're not
Zach
the
or a
clergy, are
Will.
they? The deacons, is that a clergy?
but you see what I'm saying? So like, that means those deacons aren't members of the clergy, but they are members of that board. But then like my church doesn't have a local board of directors. It has a bishop. You know what I'm saying? And he's got a first and second counselor. Like, we've got the Relief Society president, which is like the female auxiliary. So like, to us, that's like the clergy. So how each church defines
Ours is the
clergy
council. Ours
is
is the
very
council.
different.
Our church
Right.
Yeah.
council.
And so they're not necessarily a board of directors of the nonprofit, because our board of directors of our nonprofit's in Salt Lake. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have one locally. So,
All we're trying to do is we're, with this portion, trying to get groups. An organization can have somebody be a member, that's all. May be a member, doesn't mean they're gonna be a member, but they can. So, if Gwen, if you have some more people you wanna add in there, NAACP or thing like that, that's all good with me, I don't have a problem with it at all.
but again, if we're merging
Right, that's
1,
still
2,
just
3,
a
4, and
nonprofit.
7,
Yeah,
that's just a
so I
nonprofit
think
office,
it's
yeah.
open, once the announcement goes out that a nonprofit may
Right.
submit their name, you can either ask somebody to submit, or they can know to submit. I would just wonder that after in number 8, when we talk about interested citizens, that's the only reference where we talk about the board having to approve everybody else, but I think it needs to be clear that the board will approve all of the members from the suggested
That's a good point.
list.
But the list is not 5 people. We're looking for a list of, 10
15.
people,
Right,
15 people,
right.
because
Yeah.
we're gonna randomly select 5.
So we would be 15 for us.
So that's what I'm saying, clearly, if there is gonna be, there needs to be a statement that the
Where are you?
considered for service on a panel have been selected by a majority vote. That should refer to everybody on this list.
You know, and we might wanna then say each nonprofit organization can only send one. You know what I'm saying? So that it's not all of a sudden
One member.
5 Rotaries,
Oh,
or
yeah,
like 5
definitely.
Kiwanis, or
Yes.
5
They should be one of
NAACP,
each.
you know what I'm saying?
Shouldn't be 2 or 3 from the same group.
Do we,
You know
do
what I'm
we
saying,
need to say that since we're the ones that's picking? I mean, can we just say, well, hey, we don't wanna have.
But if that's the kind of
stuff
rule we
that-
wanna make, then encode it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Like if that's the intent,
Yeah, I think
at
that-
any point we
I
would
think that's
consider
our
fair.
intent.
I mean,
Right.
devil's advocate here, when we're talking about Kiwanis and Rotary, I mean, would you not want Bonnie Frogner to be on this list because she's a member of like 10 different things? And,
But she's only in the hat one time.
but then, yeah, but what if,
Okay, so
Jim Fortune?
No,
who's
what
a
I'm saying is,
Rotarian, also
each
on the list?
organization can only submit one name. So not, the panel can be made up, say you're in Rotary and Kiwanis and the NAACP, right? Like, if Rotary submits you, NAACP can't submit you.
Oh, yeah. that
Rotary
makes
can't,
perfect
you see what I'm
sense.
saying? So
Right,
each
one
group
person.
can only submit one person. And that person can be a member of all of the groups,
Right.
so, but,
It's still just
That just
one.
makes
But
the
it's
group
still
more,
just
it
the
makes the group
one-
more diverse as far as people.
right. So it's like the panel to choose from, like the pool of people, each organization can submit one name into, as opposed to some would say, well, we're just gonna put one, and then others say, here's our 35, and you're like, well, that's, you
Right.
know,
So, yeah, you got that, Stephanie?
So my problem with, if there were a Bonnie Frogner, and I would love to have Bonnie Frogner do this, but a Bonnie Frogner knows a lot of us very, very close and personally, which I think that would be a conflict of interest, because like I'm in several clubs with her, I'm sure you guys are on certain boards with her, not just picking her out, but that will be the situation, it would kinda be like if it was a Chuck Taylor, if it was a David Lucky, or, I mean, I don't know that those people would submit their names, but I'm saying there's gonna be some people that we just have relationship with that really shouldn't sit.
That's a lot of
In a
people, that's probably a
small-
lot of people in Spalding County, though.
exactly,
I
in a
mean,
small town like this,
It's
you
gotta
can't.
be, whoever we put in there,
You're gonna have your
Yes.
friends on this
Yes.
list.
Or
more than
enemies.
likely.
we've gotta trust that they're gonna
Or-
be
or your
objective enough,
enemies, that's
to do the
true.
job
Right.
that they are supposed to do.
I mean,
And-
there's no member of the Spalding Board of Bar Association that I don't know.
Yeah,
There's
because you're
none.
like the president.
There's
aren't you?
no Kiwanis I don't.
Right.
There's probably a few Rotarians I don't know, but that list is probably pretty small. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay, all right, let's move on. All right, anything further in the
Okay,
document?
but I wanna make sure that it's clear,
Okay,
that, okay, let's say somebody, one of us, unfortunately,
Yep.
has an ethics complaint. Does that still come to us as the Board of Commissioners to decide if we feel like it needs to be moved to the panel? I wanna make sure that's all gone.
no,
It only
okay.
comes to you if it is a covered official other than one of you.
Okay, I wanna make
it
sure
go,
that.
now, let's make sure how,
A covered
we'll
official.
talk about it. If it's brought up, it comes in, it goes to the judges as is this, whatever the right words are that you all have, prima facie, if there's really an incident. And
I
then
don't
it
even
comes,
think I used prima facie, I think I used
Yeah, I don't
another
think you didn't.
standard.
Took it
or
out.
whatever it is, then you comes back, and we start with the panel to be able to do something with it.
Okay,
So, and then in the end, it comes to us.
As a recommendation.
Yeah, it comes to us as a recommendation.
So if the panel finds the person guilty, it comes to us and we establish what the fine should be, is what you're
Yes.
saying?
Yes,
Yeah, and
You know,
you're,
we don't have any decision-making investigatory
no,
dealings.
Right.
they're gonna, and you're not part of the hearing if it's not you. I suppose that you could be if one of you wanted to call another as a witness, because you have the right to do that. But your penalties, the penalties are very, I mean, they're limited to 3, and they're not, none of them are terribly strict.
Can we talk about
where are you?
right there? The panel may be asked to render advisory opinions based on hypothetical facts or circumstances relating to conduct of a covered official or transaction of county business when requested to do so in writing by the Board of Commissioners. I think that's kind of silly.
We talked
That must
about-
have been a copy and paste, right?
No, we talked about that actually. It was in, I believe it is in maybe Henry counties, I can't remember, but,
Hypothetical facts or something.
but we did talk about that kind of what-if situation. Just like if an advisory opinion, if you seek an advisory opinion from the Attorney General. So,
Yeah,
there,
but-
I mean, there could be actions that you as a board or individual board members want to take that you find, that you think might be questionable, that you're not sure about. And if so, you could, I don't foresee this happening very often, if at all, but you could ask the panel to render an advisory opinion based on a hypothetical.
I don't have any problems with that. I'm not
I-
sure we're gonna, that's
I
an
mean, I
issue's
think it
gonna
gives
pop
you some
up very often.
flexibility if
It's just
if
the
an issue
panel is
ever-
gonna be a different panel every time. When you ask the Supreme Court or the Attorney General for a ruling, like, it's the same people. Whereas that panel's gonna be totally different every time. And
So maybe-
you're
There are
gonna get
lots of
like,
maybe we
advisory
should-
opinions out there that
If
Chris
we have
Carr
to
didn't
seat
write.
a panel, maybe that panel should stay on alert for the next 365 days.
I
For a
think that-
one-year term
yeah, I
from the
think
time
that's
it's
the-
established, so that if there is a complaint within the next, before the end of the year. I mean, I think having them
Just
set
like
up
a grand jury.
right, to just be able to, you know, if we call you in January, if there are any other hearings within the next 365 days, then that panel.
Don't we have that in the personnel side? We have a personnel appeals board that we put people on, and they're it for it, and they only, they haven't met, I think, in 2 years, but they're the board.
If you look at G, right above the I that we're looking at in 12010, it states, "The Ethics Review Panel shall have no regularly scheduled meetings, but shall meet at least annually to select the chair." So they are on for 1 year.
Okay.
so how many people are on
So
that
you
panel?
randomly select, so 5.
5.
Five, so you have a list of, say, 15, I don't know how many we wanna say are on this list, but then the 5 are randomly selected, and that group of 5 would be it for the year. We could certainly make it such that that
Keeps it
they
simple.
serve a
If
one-year
they're-
term.
If it's for the year, to 5, that means we don't have to get another panel.
Okay,
I have a concern about the definition in covered official. I think that definition.
in the very beginning, talking
Yes.
about, okay.
Yes, yes.
Oh, I actually say, sorry, not less than 9, nor more than 15 qualified individuals.
9 to 15
Okay.
members.
Yeah, are on the list.
Okay, so I guess my question is, do we have an ethics ordinance for county employees?
Your personnel policy, covers your county employees.
So my question then would be, how reflective is our ordinance, ethics ordinance, compared to what the requirements are? Because I think somewhere in here I saw where it says the employee will or something, that, I just that question, but I think that when we look at covered officials, we need to also look at any official where the county financially supports that organization. We said that if you're appointed by a county, but if county taxpayer dollars supports that, so let me give you a perfect example of what I'm thinking about. Ryan Upson, he does a lot of stuff for us. I know he serves on the hospital authority, but we don't give them money. But if you were gonna serve on Park and Rec, which we do fund, you also contract with us to do stuff. To me, that's not ethical, so I
So-
think,
That would be in a conflict of interest section, not in a covered official. Brian is hired, he's not an official, he's not appointed, I mean, unless you appoint him to the hospital authority, and I don't know that you do.
Yeah.
I don't know who,
but the hospital authority is not an organization that we finance, that
Right.
money from the county coffers come to them. So I'm just saying in terms of,
and professionally, Brian and I and Newton and, John, our, personnel employee, we're all governed by our organizations. So the Georgia Bar would be where punishment for my wrong actions would come from,
right.
not from
Okay.
you, because I'm not a covered official.
Right, but if you served on a board that we support, then you have the opportunity to possibly make decisions that could benefit you because you're getting paid by us, even though you're serving on that board. You see what I'm saying? I just want it to be clear that we treat if you're getting paid by us, I don't think that you should sit on a board that we finance. I think that that's unethical,
So-
just like I would not want to be sitting on a board where I could.
Yeah, so that wouldn't change the definition of covered official. I
Okay.
think the definition of covered official is appropriate as it's written. I think that is something that you build into a conflict of interest
Okay.
policy.
All right. And then I don't,
You bring up something important though, like on the pool panelist, like, I think specifically one of the rules though is you can't be in any way remunerated by the county,
They
right?
cannot be an employee of the county or a covered official or any immediate family member of an employee or
right, but.
covered
our-
official, no
our-
officer or employee of a political party, not an elected official or a candidate, and not a member of any board or authority appointed by the Board of Commissioners.
Right.
I think the
Well, that's-
party language might be bad if we're saying nonprofits, like.
Yeah, I hear you're saying, you know, anyone who is employed by the Board of Commissioners, but when I had the question about our IT contract, this was my concern about that our IT contract with Liberty is pretty lucrative. And if Liberty handles not only the county business, but the Board of Elections business, that is not a board that we actually support. Oh, well, it is a board, we
We
pay
fund
money,
it,
we
fund
pay
it.
money to the Board of Elections.
You
So-
pay,
so-
yeah, you just don't have any authority to appoint any of
Right,
those
which
members.
I get that and I understand that, but when I asked about that, I was told that our ordinance talks about county employees. It doesn't talk about people who serve in organizations as officers in organizations where we financially support them. That is a problem that I have, is that when I look at you, you may be contractual, but you work for us. So that's kinda how I have that thing about how do we pick, we leave ourselves open to where still there are people who represent us, cause I don't care what anybody says, if something happens at animal control, it's Spalding County. Something happens at the elections office, who they blame? Us.
We see it all the
Yeah,
time.
who they're gonna sue.
So
You.
that's why I was concerned about the language in talking about who is covered. Who is covered?
question.
Because nobody who sits on the elections board, none of the 5 members were not selected by us, but the funds from taxpayer that we have generated go to support that organization.
So I think we're kind of blurring the line though between the ethics ordinance and the conflicts of interest, which is why I think Steve's idea to separate the two
Yes.
was a good one.
It is.
Because I think when we're talking about covered officials, they are what they are. And I think the ethics review panel, I think the members, the requirements for the ethics review panel, I think are actually pretty good. But I think what we lack entirely, I mean, our ethics ordinance is horrible. I mean, I don't think anybody would argue that. We haven't argued that in the past. That's kind of been agreed upon. But what we don't have at all is any sort of decent conflicts of interest language. Y'all are, you're bound by state law, but we don't have anything that says, here's what we in Spalding County as a Board of Commissioners think is a conflict of interest for us and our employees and the boards that we appoint, boards and authorities that we appoint.
Let's divide this. We're trying to get through ethics at this
So,
time.
but that's what I wanna understand, why is someone being in having a conflict of interest and going forward, or someone complaining about them having conflict of interest, why is that not unethical, or why can it not be looked at as being unethical? If I say,
No,
Rita,
having a conflict of interest,
Rita sits on this board, but she gave a grant to the same board that she sits on. You know,
That's
I'm, not that you did that, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying.
yeah, that
how
would be an
can-
ethical violation.
So,
But that-
but
I don't
it's
sit on that
based
board,
out of
Clay
a
does.
conflict of interest. You see
Right.
what I'm saying? So,
Yes.
so that's
Let's clear
why
that up right now.
I don't know how you can take the conflict of interest out of the ethical ordinance, because clearly that isn't a situation that is probable.
I think that ethics violations include conflicts of interest.
Oh, does it? I
Yeah.
don't see that on here.
So, to me, ethics violations are things that may or may not be a violation, right? That's why there's this panel, that's why there's this hearing, whereas, do you have a conflict of interest is.
Pretty straightforward.
Is very much yes or no, like,
Yeah.
I mean, we saw Will Wilson get up and leave the room when we were talking about rezoning his land. You know what I'm saying? Like, he left the room, he wasn't just sitting over there silent, he was gone, you know what I'm saying? Like,
And
because
that's-
there
that's
is like,
appropriate.
is this your stuff or is this not your stuff? Does this money go to you or any of the following people? Then it's there's not, well, let's weigh it and see. I think, to me, it's not really a panel decision if it's a conflict of interest. I've never,
But good question there.
that said, I have looked over
Okay,
and said,
James.
do I have a conflict here?
Okay, James, hey, good question. That was a good example. Now, how would that, because we're making a difference here. William left the room. It was a conflict of interest. How could that have been deemed unethical? If he stayed in the room?
If
No,
he
I-
said anything,
Right.
And he
I think
supported it, he
would be-
supported it.
Well,
But-
if he
but his-
influenced our decision,
And his mere presence
could have been
could have
intimidating.
been an influence.
right.
But would he be unethical, though? Is that deemed unethical?
If he just stayed in the room,
Is that unethical
no.
because he stayed in the room?
If he didn't do
No.
anything.
But if he's talked and he supported, and he talked us
Yeah,
through it, hey,
and
y'all,
it's his
okay, then it
stuff.
would be deemed conflict of interest, obviously, and he being unethical because he,
And
so
he
they are
didn't-
separate.
And he didn't state it. One of the issues that I keep thinking about, if you know you own the land and stuff like that, you're supposed to recuse yourself
Right.
and state why.
Yes.
I think he
He
did.
did.
He,
He
at the
did.
very
Yeah,
beginning of the meeting,
he
he
did.
said, when this comes up, I'm
Yeah,
gonna walk
yeah,
out.
but I mean, that's the
Well-
issue,
'Cause-
to me.
But, I mean, William doesn't have a vote, so recusing himself isn't
Yeah,
appropriate.
Yeah.
But for you,
Yes.
If you don't,
generally, and because we don't, I mean, I've never forced the issue with any of you because we don't have anything to back it up. But if you have in my mind, the appropriate behavior, if you have a conflict of interest,
You raise
is
your
that
hand.
you explain why, you recuse yourself not only from a vote, but from the discussion.
Nope.
And in my opinion, the appropriate thing to do is to leave the
Is to
room
leave.
during
That's
that
good to know.
discussion.
Okay, because we haven't done that. Well, we have, several of us have recused ourselves, but we've never left.
And
Yeah.
you always have, you can't just not vote. Do you remember I made Bart vote
Yeah.
once
Right,
and he
that's
didn't
true.
want to because he said,
Yeah.
he just said I abstain and he wouldn't say, and he said, cause he didn't wanna make anybody mad, and I said,
No,
that's not
that
a
don't
reason.
count.
I'm sorry about that. But the
So,
issue to me is if you know something and you don't raise your hand,
right.
that is absolutely bat.
Now, it might be an ethics violation if, like, you should have known, or so, you see what I'm saying,
If you
like,
participate, in a discussion and you have a conflict of interest.
Yeah, use a benefit.
Then that is an ethics violation, because
Yes, it is.
you are taking part in something that you can benefit from either financially or.
That's a big picture, too. That's a big picture.
but again, I think the ethics part comes in as, like, you took part and you didn't know that you had a conflict, and then later it's like, oh crap, I didn't know my brother owned part of this company that we were talking about, or something, you know what I'm saying, like, oh snap.
But people, you know, we grown.
It'd be weird if you didn't, but I mean.
You know if you're gonna benefit from something, or that
Right.
your words are going to influence what somebody else is saying.
Okay.
But
And
like,
your- and your
the
vote.
conflict of interest is, like, that's separate because do you know, do you not know? You know what I'm saying, like, that, like,
I would
this
lie.
is,
And say I didn't know,
But-
because who, you know,
but then that's,
you got caught.
Been in it?
but
gonna say,
that's
you know,
the ethics
that was
part.
the-
I was gonna say, been
You
in
see
it.
what I'm saying?
Then
But,
that would be not knowingly state or withhold information.
Well, that's
Okay.
what I'm saying, but let me ask
Right.
you this one thing about
that's the
these.
ethics part. The conflict is, do you know, then
Is there
you're
conflict
then
of
here are the
interest?
rules. But like, if you're lying about it, then that's the ethics part. You see what I'm
Or
saying? Like,
influential
that,
about
If
something.
you had to figure out if I'm lying or not, that's the other part.
that's the ethics
Intent,
part, right?
yes.
Okay,
It's the
so-
intent.
All right, I'm trying
we
to
should
finish this up,
practice.
so
Wait a
go
minute,
ahead,
slow
go ahead.
down. B, under one, contracted for goods and services, says the covered, B, I don't even know what page it is. The covered official or employee does not participate in any aspect of the procurement or performance of the contract. Who's the employee?
So are you talking about in the conflicts of interest
Yes, in the
section?
conflicts of, it's 12A, I'm sorry.
Okay,
12 what?
Section one, under B, and then B.
Section 1. So on the top.
Okay. No, under conflicts of interest, there's A and then B,
Yes,
and under that B, there's another B.
yes.
And it says the covered official or employee. I wanna know what employee that is, because at first it says at the top, it is only elected officials and people appointed, not excluded, including the county manager, the blah, 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 the attorney. So where do employees come in this?
so
Are we talking about contract employee?
for conflicts of interest, we are talking about,
So I think we should say
All right.
if we're talking about a contract employee. Because our regular employee have their own ethical personnel, but our personnel file covers ethics for them, correct?
so to include contract employees.
What line is this now, Saucy?
Yes.
That's B and B.
B and B, okay. Okay.
Okay, so you don't really call contract employee, I mean, there's something, there are contract employees and then there are independent contractors paid by the county.
But they work for us.
Right,
So we employ them.
We employ
Is
them.
the point that I'm making.
except that when you're actually talking about legally, I am an independent contractor. I'm not an employee of Spalding County. You pay me and you hired me to do work, but you don't control the time, manner,
Oh, no.
method. And so there, legally,
not
there's
our employee,
there
she's a
is a
contractor.
serious distinction
Right.
between employee and independent contractor.
Yes.
But employee is irrelevant there. How is that gonna be defined?
Because we control the time, manner, place, uniform,
But that's-
methodology.
But that shouldn't have anything to do with this, because they are not the covered people.
Our conflicts of interest policy should include our employees as well, because TJ could be out there getting money from all I mean, just using TJ as an example, because roads is such a lucrative business. He could be getting money from all kinds of folks to do things the way that they want them to do. And
But is that not covered under our regular personnel file, I believe? I mean, our personnel ordinance.
I don't know what your personnel
Okay, we
ordinance
just need to look.
does as far as conflicts of interest.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so that is only the question, that's the question I have with that.
All right, are we pretty well, this is a workshop to talk through.
Do we
Steph-
want, are we including, contract employees and independent contractors?
I think that if you're doing work for us, there's a certain expectation that we have for you to do things not hiring illegal aliens that are undocumented, being American citizen. I mean, there's just stuff that you're supposed to do that we wouldn't hire the mob, even though they may front themselves.
Darn it.
And the issue to me is, we wanna make sure everybody's covered. An
Right.
employee is covered, we
Under their
think, under the
policy.
personnel issues.
Right.
Yes.
The other contractors, independent contractors, if they're not covered under other one, this is,
It's
they've gotta be
covered.
covered here.
I think the independent contractor would be covered under their contract, and if they violate that contract, the contract controls. So like,
Here's the thing, you don't have a written contract with me, for example. You don't
And-
have a written
well, we
contract with
should.
Brian Upson.
we really should.
Okay?
Are you sure we
Where-
don't have a contract with Brian Upson? Every time he does something, don't we have a contract?
I didn't think so.
We don't have
We
a
need to
service
get that
level.
together.
I thought we
But
did it at the
I'm
beginning of the year.
appointed by you.
Yes.
At your,
But
All
Bron's
right.
not appointed.
Newton and I are appointed.
Put,
You don't have
change
contracts
employee
with
to contracted service, so whatever the right
Independent
words are to
contractor.
include you and
That's
people like
To
you.
include contract employees and independent
Independent
contractors.
contractors,
All right?
yes. I need some
Anything else in this? This is the opportunity. Now, Stephanie, do you have everything you think you need to
We did some good
redo?
work on this.
Yeah.
I'll be interested to see what comes back in that first part when we talk
No,
about
again,
unbecoming behavior. Did we get that ironed out?
We
hold
did
on,
not.
I wanna go back to that, go back to where we just were, can you please,
Well-
Kathy, can you please go back to where we just were, I'm sorry. Like, no, go right up, a little bit more up, right there.
12A.
12A.
Conflicts of interest.
So who are we saying this is gonna cover?
So I have, to include contract employees and independent contractors hired to do work for the county. I can say by and for the county.
Anybody we give money to, if it's not covered in some contract, we should have it covered here.
Yes.
I think it has to be us directly. So like, for example, we make the sheriff's budget, right? Like, we don't make his, but we give the sheriff's office money. So if
They're employees.
We can't tell them what to do about that.
They're employees, so.
right, but they're like, it's still our money that goes to them that then goes to whatever. And like, they should be covered in their thing.
I think
Right?
all
It's the same thing with the Board of
constitutional-
Elections. Like, over here, like, yes, we have to give them money, but who they give it to is,
We
should
don't
be
tell them
covered
how to
by
spend their
their
money.
thing, and like, so if
Same
there's,
as the Board of Assessors.
right, that's, we have to, they're a line
Right,
item in our
they're-
budget, and then that's the end of where we go. And so there should, how they conduct their conflict of interest stuff is up to them. Like,
Yeah,
we
and I
can't
disagree
say
with
that this
So
comes in
you-
and says the
your
sheriff's department.
is a county employee, regardless
Right.
of the sheriff making the rules. And the rule that is good for TJ should be good for, Officer Cruz. Yeah, yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Yes, the sheriff is a constitutional officer, just like civil is, but since they fall under our personnel file, personnel actions, then they are reliable to us for the decisions they make. I mean, I've been here many years where the sheriff's department got sued. Guess who got sued?
We did.
Us.
Yeah.
So I think if the rules are not set to delineate what is acceptable behavior, not just for us, but for our employees as well, we can't tell an elected official what to do, but in our ordinance, we can say what we think is inappropriate.
I think, and I think that's why you include, employees. The bottom line is you are never going to be able to dictate to a constitutional officer. So Debbie Brooks, Jan Hunt, Sylvia Hollums, and Daryl Dix are always gonna do whatever the heck they want to. And as constitutional officers, there's not a whole lot you can do about
But
it.
file an ethics complaint.
But the people underneath them,
The people underneath them they have to follow your personnel policy.
yes. So,
Sheriff Dix is gonna have probably some more strict policies that govern his officers as well. But, so that's not really something that you're gonna have to worry
Yeah.
about, but, I don't think Debbie and Sylvia, when they're hiring folks for their offices, I don't think they have like, here's your code of conduct.
Yeah.
I think that they're bound by our personnel.
I just,
Or-
when there's specific law, or even in those cases, the Constitution, that says these people are separate from you, they're constituted, they're created separately, and you have to fund them, like, I don't think we have anything to do with that office. This is us reaching in and saying, your sheriff's deputies must X, Y, Z. Your clerks must X, Y, Z. And like, I don't think that we have the authority to come in and tell those sheriff's deputies what they can and can't do. I definitely don't think we can come in and say, the employees of the elections board can X, Y, Z. We tried that, and it failed miserably. But here we are again saying,
Well,
you
the
guys have
employee-
to X, Y, Z.
Yeah, the
and
employees of
we
the elections
can't.
office specifically fall under our personnel policy. That's in the
The board itself,
legislation.
yes.
Oh, okay.
And I believe it
is
is
in the
also
legislation?
in the
Okay.
legislation for the Board of Assessors. The employees of, the chief appraiser and the employees of the tax assessor's office are subject to the personnel policy. The Board of Tax Assessors and the Board of Elections, the boards themselves, there's nothing that you can do to control either of those boards. But the
But we
employees.
can control whether or not we determine there's a conflict of interest. And that is my point, that we don't get to the place, or if we are at that place, where a significant amount of county taxpayer is paying someone who is acting in a manner that is a conflict. I mean, if you're making decisions about the Board of Elections, but you're getting paid for doing the IT for the Board of Elections and for the county,
I think
it's kinda if it walks like a duck, if it looks like a duck, and you may not have done anything wrong. But, you know, people's appearance of a situation is their reality. So
No,
that
well,
is why
it might be their
saying that we
reality,
should
but it doesn't
clear
necessarily make it
ourselves
the
up.
reality. Let's use that example. So this would cover employees of the Board of Elections, but not the 5-member impaneled Board of Elections,
Correct.
right? Okay, then I'm okay with it.
Okay, all right, so this was the workshop. We're supposed to talk through it, get all the ideas back up. That doesn't mean, if you have later ideas, please don't hesitate to let us know and send them on. Hopefully, this is 2 or 3 years' worth of work to get done, to get,
I think we got a good bit hashed out.
I really I'm so appreciative that y'all are going through this exercise with me.
all right? We're an
Thank you.
hour and a half or so into it. Let's go to item number 2. Consider on a resolution appending the Spalding County Board of Ordinances, Division I, Laws of Local Application, Part 2, Governing Administration, Chapter 2, Election, Section 2-1, Board Established Districts, to add a Section P. All right, everybody got the document? This is,
Trying to get it open.
this is the one on, if something happens to one of us, how do we replace?
So what I really want y'all to do here is disregard
Thunderdome.
everything except P. because-
Except what?
Okay.
P, because everything else is the ordinance as it currently exists. P would be the only addition to that ordinance.
Does this ordinance reflect, is it reflective of the state ordinance, or is ours different, is it different per
It
area?
probably, based on redistricting, it needs to be updated.
Okay.
It does, and I've had a conversation with
county
Kim Slaughter
executive.
about doing the update, and I've also had a conversation with Stephanie as well about doing the update, and we're in the process of going through all of the items to update sections 1 all the way through P.
So I guess my question then is that, in terms of the election, have all of the new maps been drawn and people been positioned in their new spots?
Yes, they have.
Okay. All right.
And they're all effective 1 January.
They were.
Yeah, so they're-
And all the
January 22?
correct, and all the GIS maps are up to date.
Okay, good.
And all of the, information has been uploaded to all of the devices for voting, so everybody's voting correctly.
Okay, cause my whole family got a new card, so I would assume that everybody in the county got a card
They
telling
did.
them where their polling place is or was or whatever.
And that was the issue with me on the special election. I was gonna use the 22 data. What we're voting on right now
It's
is,
based on that.
is
that data.
January 23, when it all takes effect. So-
You took effect 22.
It should have.
Mine, here, so everybody knows, the election that my special election was voted on, was for the old way.
Correct, that was
Okay.
based on information from
Because I'm a
21.
22 elected official to be able to, the new election for me, as an example, will not take office until January of '23. And that is when the new district.
Lines in the districting goes
Yes.
into place.
Now,
Okay.
we're voting on the new districting, but it won't be effective until.
Okay.
All
Next
right.
year.
All right, so we're at P. Let's make sure we're all talking about the same thing. And let's use the hypothetical example. One of us is going to be off the board. The way we were doing it now is we would go to local legislators. Local legislators would go to the governor. Governor would select, come back in and do all of that stuff. This is the prime case of the way Clay Davis was picked. I don't want us to do that anymore. I want us to be able to, Henry County has a different model, which I saw. I want us to be able
Yeah.
to, we will select our own people.
Yeah.
The key issue with me is, the way it's kind of set up is, the party, whoever's party is, in case that we use Clay Davis as example, I'm gone, I'm a Republican. The Republican Party will provide us names. The
Then the
rest of
four
the-
remaining, pick from those names.
Right. I would like to suggest that we don't pick just one name at a time from the party, that the party gives us a couple or three names, but I'm open to talk about it, because if we don't, and then the last part of this, so everybody understands, is if it is 2-2 vote, in the end, the chairman, acting chairman, whoever the chairman is, makes the selection. I want to make sure it's all crystal clear to everybody.
But you won't be able to do that if you only got 4 people.
Let's
makes
say
the-
that,
Yeah, it's
Makes
2-2
final
and then the
2-2, he
acting
makes
chair.
final.
let's say that Ryan
chair
is
or
all of a
acting
sudden not with us.
Mm-hmm.
The Republican Party will provide us the names. We will vote yes or no on those names, assuming that, let's say,
Commissioners will
The
vote.
4 commissioners.
yeah, just the commissioners. Let's say that it comes down to a party thing, and the Democrats say no, and the Republicans say yes. That's 2-2. The way it's written in here, and the way Henry County did it, is it becomes the chairman's select on who that is.
I don't understand what you mean by that. If it's 2-2 and the chairman's one of the two, how can the chairman vote a third time?
That's considered no action, and then
then the
when there's
chairman
no
votes.
action, the chair makes the decision.
And that's what this says.
Yes.
And that's what Henry County did. I mean,
I
so
don't
I
know
want
that
to
I
take,
like
this
that
is a
that much.
precedent.
So-
There's not too many other ways to do it.
Well,
Now,
I-
my
Go ahead,
issue kind
another
of is,
question.
I think that we will know, no matter which party it is, who the party submits. I think we know all the people, and we will know who the party submits. So everybody, this won't
Yeah,
be
the idea
somebody
is
we've
whoever
never
the
heard
party
of or
submitting
never
is-
seen or anything else. Just because the party's gonna submit.
You know, I think the problem with this, and I know it's a matter of timing, and I get that the other counties do this, but I think the issue lies the fact that we were all elected by district, okay? So I feel like if something happened to one of us and we were removed from that district, I think we're alienated the people in the district that put us in there. You know, I think somehow or another, you know, not saying
Oh,
we need to.
I don't have a
What do you mean?
problem if we
No,
say,
a qualified successor has to
Has to be
come
from
from the
that district.
district in
Correct.
which the vacancy occurred.
so if.
But we're still voting on that person, we're
Why
not
can't
letting
we
the.
have a special election?
That's what I'm trying to say.
It does if there's more than a year left in the term.
Okay,
That's what I'm
but,
trying to say, basically.
but here's the situation that we were in with Don. We couldn't have a special election. He was suspended. His suspension was temporary. So we couldn't have an election to, because his seat wasn't vacated. So there was no, you couldn't have called for a special election because the seat is still filled. It's just filled by somebody who's sitting in jail and can't come to any meetings. And then after forever, the governor finally, suspends him. And then it took a little while after that for the governor to appoint a temporary, person to fill it, being Clay. So the state law takes a long time, as we saw with Don's situation. And it provides for, you gotta do it this way unless your county ordinance provides for another way to handle
Okay,
it.
that was what I was listening for.
So, you know, this is close to us, so I want to try to get this thing kind of push through to be able to, if you've got a better way, a different way, I'm willing.
What, this is what Henry County does, what does Fayette do?
I haven't looked at Fayette.
Yeah, I've not looked at Fayette.
I would be interested to see what surrounding places are doing, and if we're doing what the majority of
I
places
think,
are
I
doing.
think Fayette is still, cause they had a vacancy a while ago.
Yeah, because there's a lady
I
that
think the-
passed away.
I mean,
Yeah,
so-
in
I
that
think, I think
seat.
the governor had to like appoint,
Okay.
just like we used to have.
Right.
Out of all of the ones
I think it
that,
took a while.
I
Mr.
think
Denny,
a lot of times you don't realize that you need it until you need
Right.
it.
Until you need it,
Mm-hmm.
right.
It's too late.
yeah, out of all
Yeah.
the ones that I did review, this was the way that, was most common.
Okay, now this, we're not voting on it, I just
No,
wanna
okay.
we'll vote on it, I'm
Can you
hoping,
go just a little bit up back, Kathy? I'm sorry.
I hope to, vote on it in the first meeting in June. So if you've got some heartburn with it, this is the time to talk about it.
I got heartburn. I don't like that. I feel like there is a problem if you have a board of 2 and 2. Granted, I totally understand that. And I get it that if the vacancy is a vacancy that was filled by a Democrat, then
Democrat Party.
the Democratic Party should make some recommendations to the board. However, if you make a 2-2 vote and it's no action, I don't feel confident with the chairperson, whoever, or the acting chairperson making the decision, cause you just deleted what the whole purpose of having the vote. So you either go ahead and let the chairperson or the acting chairperson
Do it
pick 'em
first.
in the first place and let it be what it is, instead of going through the motions.
Because it's gonna be a split, but we know that, it's gonna
Well,
split.
you know what,
Well-
I was saying that
It will.
myself. but
I
if
don't
it's
know that it
somebody
will
the
be,
Republican
because it's
Party
not a,
picks,
yeah,
we-
it's
you
gonna
know,
be a Republican.
I don't believe that. That's why I think we will know the person. I think that whichever side of the house comes from, we will know the person and be able to say, okay, that's a team player that I can do.
So
Well,
I
it's
hear
their,
what
it's
you're
the party's
saying.
choice. The party sent us one name. This is the person we're submitting. You
The
can vote on it.
party-
And then-
What it says is that the party sends a list.
I
We
just
don't-
think
but
that-
it
And that list can
doesn't
be as
say
long as the
what
party
that
wants it to be.
is.
I just
Which
think
means
that
they're
if
gonna send us
something
one.
happens to me, Lord forbid, and I'm no longer here, and I hold a Democratic seat,
Mm-hmm.
then let the Democratic Party find somebody to sit here. And since we're gonna choose a Democrat anyway.
But you still gotta have everybody to vote to let them be here, correct?
Yes.
That's what this says.
Actually, the way that it's worded, it states that the only options would come from the party that the seat is currently being filled by.
Right.
So the board would only be selecting from the Republican Party, like for Clay, or, God forbid, the Democrat Party for Rita. That would be the list that the board would choose from. Now, if there's a split 2-2 between the person that's being discussed, then yes, the chair or the acting chair would be the one to pick from the list from the Democrat Party or the Republican Party. It's only coming from the list for the seat that's currently being filled.
So if that list is one person long, that's the guy.
And so, yeah, that, therein lies my problem. Because if in Rita's case, it is someone that comes from the Democratic Party, and maybe they're a good person, maybe they're a great leader or not, but it'll be up to, if there's a 2-2, it'll still be up to the chairperson to make the decision about a Democratic seat.
No, which person from that list submitted by the Democrats? They still have to choose one of those people. So again, if the Democrats choose, here's the one person, right? Then they have to choose
one
one of the
person.
people from this
Yeah,
list.
I can't arbitrarily pick somebody.
It's gonna be that person.
No,
It can't
no,
be
no.
somebody different.
No, I get it.
Okay.
That we're not picking except from the list of recommended
Whoever the
people
Democratic Party
that come.
chooses.
Yeah, but by that token, I am saying that if it is that seat, you got 3 Republicans sitting here, they can either say, no, we don't want that person, he's good, or where we might say, oh, he's a dud. If they vote for him, they're in. You see what I'm saying? I got a problem with that, because the
Archery.
community, I would much rather us have an ordinance that can call for an immediate election in 2 weeks or 3 weeks to let that person seat be filled.
But that doesn't solve the problem of Georgia law. I mean, I had to learn a heck of a lot about criminal procedure with the whole, I mean, I'm calling.
It's fun, isn't it?
I'm calling Marie Broder, I'm like, what does initial conviction and final conviction mean? Is there really a difference?
And there is. It's a
And
big
there
one.
is. And that is why Clay actually got to stay for 3 months longer, because there is a difference in that. So I would be very much in favor of whatever means you choose to do it yourselves. I would be in favor of you doing it, but you can't just rely on an election, because if nothing has shown us but our history, you can't rely on an election when you have a seat that is temporarily vacated. And how many, because of COVID, how many years was that seat temporarily vacated?
See, the Don issue is what we're really trying to get past. The number of time that passed while there was 2-2 votes, time and time again.
Oh, yeah.
We want to get past that
Yeah, I agree.
issue. I want to reduce that time so that immediately, bang, 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 within a month or two, we have a new person sitting on here. There will be a special election. That will happen.
Yeah, but how soon will that happen? I mean, can't we call for an election within 30 days of a seat being vacated, or, I mean, all I'm saying is that inherently, from the way that I'm looking and from sitting at this board, if it were a Democrat, the Republicans would still choose to or choose not.
But
If it's a-
only from the list submitted by the Democrats.
Hey, I totally understand it, and I understand what you're saying, but I don't think that it's fair if there is a Democratic seat that comes empty for the majority of the Republicans to pick who that Democratic candidate is.
I guess the
But we're
saving
not.
grace, here is I think what they're saying, and trust me, I hear what you're saying. Whoever sits here, it's a temporary situation anyway, because they've got to go through an election anyway.
But it could be 360 days.
No,
No.
right?
Yes. Theoretically,
Yes.
if you died on January 3rd, then yeah, we're and
Nothing happened in
of the
July?
year.
Nothing happened in March or July? No?
Well,
If your term only has, if it has less than 365 days
So
left.
I think that's the thing, that it should be the next
for the
election,
balance.
because there are other elections that come before the November election.
If it's more than 365, then they're gonna call a special election for the seat. But even so, until, from 0 hour until that election is finalized, like, there's gonna be a temporary person put in there. And again, it has to come from the list of people submitted by
right,
that party.
that's correct.
So that party goes, I want,
Right.
Democrat, McDemocrat in there, like, we can vote no all we want.
And I
And
understand
then the chairperson has to pick one of
Right.
the names.
And I get that
and the only
piece of it.
person
I
left
get that
is-
piece of it. I understand that. But I guess my thing was, how long does a person that has been appointed here is going to be here before the district votes that person?
If it's
So-
less than a year that finishes that term, if it's less than a year in the term, then they finish the balance of that term. If it's more than a year, then it's like,
3 years left.
they're temporary until, following the election governed by OCGA that can be had, which could be 30 days or something.
Here's what this actually says, and this is at P3B. In the event that a temporary vacancy exceeds 90 days, a special election shall be held. So,
Okay. So 90 days would be it.
this procedure is going to allow,
P what, Stephanie?
3B.
3B,
Top.
But that's for temporary vacancies.
right.
A permanent vacancy, Rita dies, but then that's governed by 2, if you'll scroll up just a little bit. Like, a qualified permanent successor, right? So
Right.
it says, number 2, if at that time of vacancy there's more than 360 days, excuse me, I thought it was 65, 360 days in the next general election, all right?
Then that would allow for a special election.
Then there's a special election as fast as possible. But in the meantime, there's still
Someone
A is still
filling that seat.
Fill the state.
filling the seat temporarily.
The temporary appointment is for non-vacated seats. So Don's case was the example. So we would have been only a 4-panel Board of Commissioners for an extended period of time based on the removal of Don. This affords this board the opportunity to immediately fill that temporary seat
Right.
until the seat becomes vacated. And then when it's vacated, yes, special election, which is exactly what happened. But under the current ordinance, the way that it's written, it had to go before the governor for that temporary appointment, and that took a while. This affords us the opportunity to manage the seats that we have sitting here for temporary basis, not for any other reason than to make sure that government proceeds.
And again, that the people that could possibly fill that seat have to come from the party of the person that was there. And that party gives us a list. The party goes, here are 10 possible people, then the board's gotta pick from them.
You know, and
And
that's.
if every person gets one vote, right, then there's no choice, then the chair has to pick from that list of 10.
So in
But if
that
the party just
situation
gives
with-
one person.
With that situation with Clay, okay, let's say there was another person with Clay and the Republican Party chose him. We were divided on it. Who was the chair? I mean, you would be the
Then
one
the,
actually,
then
but
the,
you're
then
the
the
vice chair.
acting chair. would
Okay,
have- yeah.
okay, I see.
I would have picked between those two.
Hmm.
But if the Republican Party said, here's the name we want to submit, and all 4 of us vote no, then the chair still has to then pick from the list, and I still had to have picked the one guy that was submitted. So even though all 4 of us were like no, the party said, this is who we
Yeah,
want.
I don't like that.
I don't know any, but this is remember, this is just a short window. I mean,
It
we're
is
talking
short.
about the short window, not the long window.
Right.
We're
The
gonna
long-
get a
the long is
special
the
election,
election.
and that's gonna do it for a special election. This is just so that for the next
A seat
90,
field, a
120
seat field. I
days,
get it.
there's somebody sitting in the seat, so that it's not 2-2 forever.
So, in item, under that same thing, letter B, in the event that a temporary vacancy exceeds 90 days, a special election shall be held in the same manner as provided for in subparagraph B of paragraph 2 of this section, and that is what, Stephanie?
A qualified permanent successor from the district, there'll be a special election, and the residents of Spalding County within that commission district would
With
be,
that
Okay.
would vote.
And that's just like I had to have a special election to continue on right now.
It's just that no one else qualifies.
Yeah,
so.
but that, I mean, it could have been people ran against me, and today would have been all right.
And he could have had a primary and then had to have to do a special general election, but nobody qualified at all, so they just win.
Okay, we all square with this? I wanna,
I
everybody
like
get,
this.
get your head wrapped around it, because I wanna vote on it in the first, June meeting. And if, okay. And if you've got some heartburn with specific piece, work it and let us know, and
I
we
We
can
still have to
I
do 2
can't-
readings of it and blah,
I
blah, blah.
cannot defend what I'm feeling right now, but
Well,
I can figure it out.
Ruminate on it.
And I'll tell you what I'll
see-
do, I'm gonna act, cause like I said, I know there was a commissioner that passed away in Fayette County. I wanna see how that was handled.
Oop.
And if it's handled like this, then I'm good with it.
Okay.
So I looked up Fayette County's vacancy ordinances. In the event a vacancy occurs on the board for any reason other than the expiration of the term of office, it shall be filled by a special election.
Special election. I'm trying to say.
They don't talk about they're not addressing the situation that we found ourselves in.
Okay, and that's what I'm talking about, that's just me.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
don't.
You
I mean-
probably should talk about it, but I'm thinking that's the easiest way.
Yeah, I would,
Sorry.
where I'm sitting, I would much rather call for a special election within 30 days of the vacation of that seat and let the people in that district vote.
But,
I-
you know,
that's
what if
just
there's
me.
10 days left? and that,
Currently, you
like-
can't, but yeah.
Yeah, and currently you can't.
Currently, you can't what?
Currently, you wouldn't have the authority to call for an
election.
special
It's governor.
election. So you gotta make changes regardless of what those changes
So
are.
when you have, when there's a vacancy, you can only have elections on the dates that they say you can?
Special
I mean, I know
elections.
March and November, but is it based on certain years or?
Every year, the election schedule differs, and they will, under super exigent circumstances, they will allow for an election on a different day than is in that published election schedule, but that has to be approved by the state election board to have that emergency election.
And that's not an option for us, to request the state election board to allow us to have an emergency election to replace the commissioner?
Currently, they would say, in our Dawn situation, they would have said your seat is not vacant
Okay.
because he's
So-
suspended, he's
I'm
not
trying to
renewed.
make myself say, if there were 3 Democrats sitting on this board, would I be feeling different? And that's what I'm trying to get myself to not try to blame a majority of the Republicans, because if I was on the other end, would I be saying, okay, yeah, that's fine with me?
Yeah.
Well, I
So
think I
I
heard,
can't really, say what I feel like is wrong with it, but it may not be enough.
I think I heard Clay say that maybe there should be more than one name on the list. Maybe you should have more, maybe you should require the party to give you
At least 3
3
names.
names.
Yeah. And they can give them prioritized names, just like we do in the book. I don't have a problem with that, but I just, we could end up, if they gave it to us and we said no, then what is the chairman supposed to do? Let's say it comes down
gotta
and
pick
we say,
from that list.
they give John Democrat, and we say, 2-2 vote. Do I say, send us another name?
Well,
Currently, this says you gotta pick from that list, right?
I don't think.
John Democrat's it. They
I
only send us one.
honestly
it's John
don't
Democrat.
think that the chairperson, that's a lot of responsibility to me for the chairperson to make. But I think we set ourselves up, if I were the chairperson, that I would be, and it was 2-2, that I would pick the Republican that needed to be. I'm just being honest, I would pick the Republican that I thought was a dud, or I would pick the Republican I thought was a more moderate. I'm gonna be picking that person based on what my experience in life view is. So that's the thing that makes me upset. I see that it makes sense what you're saying, but I feel like if a Republican has to pick who the Democrat is that's coming on, you may choose the weak person,
But,
you may choose the person. You
that-
see what I'm saying?
That's why I think we shouldn't require them to submit any number of people. We should allow them to just submit one name. This
And
is
you
who
can-
we want it to be. And then there's no real choice, because if all 4 say no, whether it's Republican or Democrat, the chair then has to select from that list, and there's only one person, that person's it. So
Or
then
you
really,
could-
he's just ratifying
or
what the party
you could
submitted.
take out the majority and just say if they get at least 2 votes,
Yeah.
then you don't leave anything to the chairman.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I-
mean, that's a
I don't-
possibility.
that would,
In that case,
I don't know, but what if Rita's chair flips and it's a 4-1, and then, Gwen
yeah,
has a
I
heart
mean, that's-
attack,
yeah,
and all of a
that's-
sudden we just go no, and we just never seated him, then,
So, yeah,
again, looking at worst case scenarios,
yeah,
because
I
that's what
don't,
we're supposed to do as
I think
lawyers.
this can be the answer to our immediate problem. And we will have time to, if there's, someone's got heartburn with it, they can go back and we can address it. Obviously,
It's
it's no
definitely a step in the right
document, it's sealed in cement. But I think for the purpose of us being able to, and I'm not speaking for Rita, for the purpose of us being able to settle, that we have a way to get beyond what happened with Donna, I'll be okay with that.
and my issue, as the guy we're really talking about, the chairman, I hope that most of you see it as an integrity issue, and that I'm going to sit down and talk about it. Hey, let's all 4 individually talk about yes or no, him or her, and do that. I hope that you all have that confidence in
That's
me
what a
that
chair
it's
should
not,
do, absolutely.
that, there's I could do exactly what you said and turn around and say, I'm gonna pick the dud. I
Yeah.
hope you have more confidence in me, in my
Well,
integrity.
Yeah, but understanding that we're making rules that somebody else is gonna live with until they realize this is not a good rule and let's change it like we're doing. So yes, I mean, I have that faith that you would be that person who could do that, but we also have to understand the nature of politics,
Oh.
and that's not how it's
I think we
always
do
been.
understand the nature of politics.
All right, so,
But again, this behooves the party then to just submit one name and pick the person and not leave it up to chance.
So
Just be like,
I'm just gonna
this is
say
who the
this and we
replacement's
can
gonna be.
pass. The reason I don't like it, I'm a person, I'm politically homeless right now. I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, just because I abhor the stuff that I see that's going on. But I have enough sense to realize that this is the people's seat. And if it's 365 days, is that the person that the people are gonna be happy with? And I didn't have a lot of confidence elected on an election board. So my confidence level is not super high in looking at what would be presented.
Would they replace me
in
with
person.
somebody?
So-
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And, you know, my answer to that is, we vote no.
So,
It doesn't get to me. You know, the three people vote no, and,
Well,
okay,
Maybe we put in there, if there's a unanimous no for this person, then they've gotta come back.
Somebody else.
I would like that, because, I mean, you know, let's face it, you
There's a
don't
way to
wanna
be
get
like,
somebody on the board, and I'm not saying that they would do it, doesn't read the agenda, have
It's
come to
it's
meetings,
possible.
don't wanna go to training, you know, and I'm not saying that the Republican parties don't have people like that too, but I think that,
I don't have a problem with that at all.
yeah, okay.
So, what do we do? I know we got Republicans and Democrats here, but what if it was a independent person?
Very good
Yeah,
question.
right.
Who's gonna,
That might be me.
you know, I know that's kinda far-fetched.
I mean, it's not
People
far-fetched,
more every
actually.
day, you know.
Yeah.
Let's get this one, get this so that this is a rule, and then we'll get to the independent.
Well, I think that there's potential for us to list that there may not necessarily be two political parties, and so we should go to,
If it's an independent, you could have an application process.
okay, yeah, I think that you're right, we shouldn't discount that there could be someone from another party that could actually
Well,
have a seat that's not Republican.
It doesn't specifically say Republican, Democrat, it says from whatever party the person was the last time they ran.
But there is no county, group
For
for
independents,
independents.
Yeah, you have to provide
But there is a
signatures.
libertarian, there is a,
Pretty
you know, green there.
I understand that they have to provide signatures.
Yeah, that's right, they do.
I pretty well understand.
You know that.
All right, everybody kind of square on this? All right.
Yeah.
June meeting, we're coming that up. All right.
All right,
Item number 3. Consider discussion on the aquatic center and the bids that were returned for the center. Dr. Ledbetter.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, Dr. Ledbetter, do you need me for this, or can
I don't need Stephanie.
Okay,
Thank you
yes,
very
thank you.
much.
I was trying to make sure that there wasn't anything.
I, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Our 2016 SPOS report card highlights a budget number of $4,690,000 for our aquatic center. We have expended $492,798.50 on engineering activity to prepare for the construction of the aquatic center. That leaves $4,197,201.50 for use toward construction. The county has received $6,478,138 to date for our ARPA funds. This represents 1/2 of the funds we will receive. The total amount of ARPA funds is $12,956,276. Of these funds, the Treasury Department has afforded us the opportunity to move $10 million into our general fund as lost revenue due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Staff's recommendation, should the board decide to move forward with the construction of the aquatic center, is to use $5,874,048.50 from the ARPA funds. This would leave $4,125,951.50 in ARPA fund within the general fund, and an additional $2,956,276 in restricted ARPA account to be used towards water, sewer, and broadband. Why is this important? Our bids came back for our Spalding County Aquatic Center, a total of $10,072,000, which includes the alternatives that were requested, such as bleachers, the staining and sealing of the concrete floors, the additional parking spaces, the drop-off area, and the landscaping. The $10 million that represents the total build-out of the aquatic center is substantially more than what we had budgeted. But again, the staff's recommendation, should we move forward with the aquatic center, is to use the 5 million, let me get my numbers right.
800?
$5,874,048.50 toward the construction of the facility. I would very much like to have a conversation about how the board would like to proceed with the construction of the aquatic center as presented.
So when we talked, Steve, you and I, and Gwen, during our meeting, no, I don't know if this is just, we were making this suggestion. I don't know if it's something that can truly happen or not. I get that. We were offering up partnerships with other, groups in the organization that may, in the community, that may want to partner with us with MOUs and also, contributing to the aquatic center. I guess I'd like to pitch it to the other three here, if that's something that we want to pursue, or do we just give the money, from the ARPA funds? We try to reach out to the 3 or 4 entities we discussed, the hospital board, the school board, we mentioned the industrial park, places like that. What do we do? Or do we just not do that? Or have people the opportunity to partner with us?
Well, I don't, my thoughts on this is, let's not hold up the pool trying to find partnerships. It's been a while, and it's gonna be a while before got it. So my answer is, go ahead and
But still seek it.
authorize $5,874,000 for Steve to move on with this. And in the meantime, try to get the money, try to get partnerships to be able to do something with it.
How much do we have left in the SPOS funds?
We'll end up with,
197,201. $4,597,201.
Yes. And we still have, now remember, that's out of the 10 million, so we still have 2 million that we have to use on the original things, sewer, water, broadband. We have that $2 million still to be able to do something with. So I'm for not holding up any longer. I looked at the options. Eliminating those options just makes it less, and it doesn't save, this isn't if it saves us 50% of the money or something. The difference turned out to be, less than $1 million to do it right.
Exactly. Now, if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it right. No doubt
Yes,
about
that
So,
kind of, we did it right with
Everything
the
else we've
senior
done.
center, and it's turned out to be
Pickleball, all of
great
it.
for us to do.
Animal shelter.
All right, Ms. Gwynn.
My concern is that people in this county voted for a $4.9 million aquatic center. And we're gonna take an additional
Eight.
$6 million to finish this. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that the average person's gonna say, there's a lot of stuff that we need done in the county. So that is my problem, that this project has turned into twice as much what it cost. This is what the taxpayers voted for.
They all have.
They all-
Are we being very good stewards of these funds? Because, we've got this, I agree with you that we should finish it. I'm just not so sure that,
I understand that issue with you clearly. If you remember when we went to whatever that town was over there, Carrollton, and we looked at the pool, and we all said, that's what we want, and TJ broke the news to us and said, that ain't what you're getting. We all went, what? And he said, what we gave you for $4 million was this little thing here. And we said, hold it. Griffin Gators all stood up and said that what they thought they were getting was Carrollton. And then we started moving towards, so I don't believe that most of the citizens understood the difference between what we can call the fun pool, $4 million, and the competition pool, which is what a lot of people thought we were getting. So I'm not too sure that this isn't a bait and switch with me where we've done one thing. This is, people thought we were getting Carrollton, when in fact, that's not what we were thinking, because we didn't have all the engineering data, or engineering drawings done.
All right.
Yep, you're in, go.
Okay. Two things. The second first, and that is, SPOS projects have to be completed. Yeah, like you can declare them, what is it, impossible or something, but like we see before us that it's not, right? So we have to complete it.
No, we don't have to complete it. It's a pay-as-you-go. And so.
Okay,
it-
so that's not the way the law for SPOS work. You have to complete these projects unless they're declared infeasible. We see in front of us that there is a feasible way to get there, like, and so we can't declare it infeasible. We have to complete it. Now let me finish. The second is, what the people voted on was a $1.7 million project that was Fairmont and Heritage Park. We spent more than 1.7 just at Fairmont, and now we're spending, between us and the Housing Authority and everybody else, like 7.1 more at Heritage Park. Should we do that? Absolutely. That's the right thing to do. That is not what they voted for in SPOS. It's over and above, like by several orders of magnitude over and above. But it's still the right thing to do. Here we are with a way to finish this last project. Will it cost a lot more? Yep. They all cost a lot more. Did we tell the voters we're gonna do this? Did the voters understand that this was what they were getting? Is there reality that this is what we should be getting? Yeah. And if we don't follow up with what we have promised, then they're never gonna vote for any other SPOS ever again, ever. It will never happen. And so here we are with a way to finish this off strong, show all the voters, look at what we've done. We're giving you everything and a bag of chips. We've done all these projects well. We've done all these projects to completion, and we've gone above and beyond in all of them. Trust us again with the next SPOS. Here we are with the opportunity to do that. You can't now say, well, wait a minute, it's going over budget. They all have. But it's going double over budget. Well, we're at 8.8 from a $1.7 million budget with the Heritage Park Fairmont. Should we have spent all 8.8? Should we have? Yeah, I think it's the right thing to do. But you can't say, well, it's more than double, so we can't do it. No, that's times 4, times 5. But it's still the right thing to do. We should have done it. I'm glad that we did it. I'm proud that our community is doing it. I think we can be proud of this aquatic center as well.
Mr.
Yes,
Chairman, I
yes.
would like to correct Commissioner that Fairmont was a bonded project. We were obligated to finish that project. And just as all pay-as-you-go projects, there are projects that were put at the top of the list. We didn't single out which ones were. Our past county manager chose to complete projects that were on the pay-as-you-go list. So, 25 years ago when we had the last SPOS for, probably you guys were in high school, when we had the first SPOS for the aquatic center, the money was allocated, but it was allocated under transportation. And when it became time to build the pool, it was, oops, we can't use this money for this. This is transportation money. It was allocated in SPOS. So the correction is that we are not obligated. And I'm not saying that that we shouldn't finish it, but we are not obligated to finish a pay-as-you-go project if we can't afford to finish it. The issue with Fairmont, I would like to have somebody verify for me that we have decided to expend $8.8 million at Fairmont. I don't believe those are correct numbers. 1.7 was allocated for 3 separate pieces of property, which would have put about $600,000 at each one, which obviously that was not enough. But it was a bonded project. It was a bonded project that was supposed to be done in the first year, and it's still getting done in 7th year. So, I don't know what the answer is. For me, I'm looking at, could this money be used at the jail?
No, you're
Could
exactly.
Could we fix the sewer at the jail? Could we fix the AC? Could we mitigate the mold and that's my struggle with us taking this huge chunk of money and doing a want instead of a need, when the sheriff's department has clearly made it clear to us that we're on the verge of maybe being told that we need to do something different. So, hey, I wanna swim in the pool, but I'm saying that's my struggle
Huh?
with just the way that this money.
So
has
we've
been
got $2 million
allocated.
left, okay, so, we could allot that to the sheriff's department, for the jail. I
No,
mean,
that-
I mean,
that
that,
$2 million,
That's
we can't.
broadband.
That's an extra
But we still got another whole chunk coming too. We got another whole chunk of money coming that we have to spend. That would be
Oh,
the sewage
okay,
and the.
okay, yeah, I'm sorry,
Okay.
yes.
So we're just
Sewer.
talking about, so I'm talking about for this, okay, so we've got this amount of money that we've got allocated. You said $6 million, right? Okay. And I have to say, I have to agree with Commissioner Dutton here. Do we wanna spend this money, all of this on it? No. Are we, as far as I'm concerned, are we obligated? Yes. Because we don't wanna just throw a pool up, now this is about trust here, okay?
Oh, I totally agree.
Yeah,
with
so
you.
it's about, that we have, at the end of the day, we have went well above and beyond whatever the numbers are on all of the projects that we've done, okay? So we're gonna have to do it with this one too, to live up to its expectation and to gain the trust when we leave out of these seats, okay? So, yeah, we've got the money. It was a blessing we got the money, for those who think. We need to spend the money on this. We have more money coming, and we need to really think about how those funds are spent. The jail we mentioned, broadband we mentioned, and sewage. And based on my understanding is that we still can do those three things on top of the aquatic center.
Correct.
And I think that if we don't, it's going to be a problem for us. I mean, for whoever sits here
Yep.
next after us or whatever. Because the trust is big. I mean, that's the one thing, if we don't do anything else, we need to make sure when a splosh rolls around again, that we're gonna get it passed. And we're gonna get it passed based on the history of what we've done with the funds that we said we're gonna do. And the projects that are built. Okay?
If we nail the aquatic center like we've nailed all the other projects.
And the
like-
senior center, that was under budget too.
Right, we come back and go, behold,
Mhm.
now we need it for this, like, no one, I mean, somebody can say, well, I don't like the new list of projects you got, I don't wanna just do the jail or whatever, but like, you can't come back and point at any past history and say, well, but last time no, we nailed it last time. If we-
Well, and
if
the
we
last
get
time,
those-
but we've learned from last time. We all agree, we've learned.
Well, the last time now was different.
Right,
than
I'm talking
last
about the
time
next
then.
clause and know what to do, be a little bit more hands-on when it
Yeah.
comes to projects and maybe thinking outside the box as far as
Getting the cost up front.
getting the cost up front. And maybe, the ones, here, they're trying to do the right thing, it was just,
Yeah.
because maybe or not, they didn't think it was gonna pass. I don't know. But at the
Huge
end of the
lesson
day-
learned after,
Right, so we've
because of
learned
this
something
one.
from it. I don't ever expect us to be in this situation again. My goal is the fact that we are in the situation again because we do have a swash pass. That's what I have to say.
All right, so, we're,
I think there's certainly
on Monday, on the June meeting, we're voting
Okay.
in case there, reason for bringing it up is to make sure if there's any questions, you got stuff to do, this is the time to talk about it. I think Gwen's issue is very, very strong
Yeah.
on public people walking up and saying, hold it. If, we know who those people are, wanna stick up their hand and say, you said 4, you're spending 10. You didn't come back to us and ask us anything.
And it's not a bad idea to actually have those splosh, have the numbers of what was agreed on, voted on, and what we've spent on. It's not a bad idea to have those. Just so that everybody can see that, yes, this is what we've done. We said this, but
Yeah, yeah.
we've done this.
like how much was actually
you gotta have to put it out
budgeted
there.
for Fairmont Heritage
Yeah,
Park,
that's
and then how much we spent
Yeah,
at just
they need to
Fairmont,
see it.
and then how much. We know that the 7.1 is for Heritage, but I don't know the exact number of what we spent. At
And we can
Fairmont
talk about,
down there.
this is what the pool was that we originally said. Covered,
Yes.
4-lane, and this is the pool that we're getting now, so that people see the difference in it. This is an indoor pool and everything else. All right, anything else you need on the aquatic center?
No, sir.
All right, item number 4.
So, let me ask one
Okay.
more question. So, out of the $6 million that they've already given us and that that's part of the $10 million that we can put into the general
Yep,
fund?
yep,
Okay.
yes, yes. And we're gonna get the second, what's the word?
Tranche.
Tranche soon, I think.
We are.
Okay.
The paperwork has already been completed. We've already got the notification that everything has been approved.
And just so everybody knows, I thought it was very, very helpful that they gave us the $10 million get-out-of-jail-free card,
Oh, yeah.
because we could have never,
We better spend it now before it's 9 and then 8 and then 7.
yes. All right, item number 4, final review of the 2023 budget, questions and answers. This is kind of our last opportunity before we get ready to go to public stuff on the budget that Dr. Ledbetter has given to us, and we've all talked about individually. All right, turn
I got
it
a
over to
couple.
Dr. Ledbetter. Okay?
So I see your list.
from new positions.
Right.
I see a part-time elections assistant for elections, is a part-time office assistant for elections. I know that what was asked for was another part-time position in the Veterans Mental Health Court that the state then covers once we get that to 25, and then the state covers a full-time position once we get to 30, like participants. But I don't see that on your list.
It's not on the list. Judge Thacker was going back to review the information and bring that back to us, and he has not brought that to us yet.
Okay. I'll call him today. I know that he's talked with me about it. Essentially, the state will cover the cost of that once we're at 25, but I think they're at like 21 right now, and that's like, they're already overloaded. But if we can give them that part-time person, that'll get their bandwidth so much higher, and then we can get them to 25 participants. The state then picks up that, once it gets to 30, that part-time becomes a full-time position, again, covered by the state grant. So we just need that like a little stopgap. We wouldn't be,
No, will we get reimbursed for the money that we expand for the part-time person
Once they go above 25, yes.
yeah.
So is that an automatic grant, or is that an
Yeah.
additional grant that they have to apply for?
It's part of
my
their current
understanding,
grant, I
it's an automatic
Yeah.
grant through the district,
And this is a contract
or circuit
part-time
grant.
person?
That's correct.
Yep.
What did he tell us his salary would be?
Oh, I don't.
I'm
It's
sorry.
6 months? We're doing it for 6 months, or what?
I think that's what you should plan on, is about 6
I
months.
think he said 3, but I
But we
think
could probably, we could probably get, speaking as a defense bar, we could probably find people to fill those slots and get it to 25 pretty quick. I mean, we get very, eligible veterans pretty often. Is that a good way to put that?
So I wonder if we should put it in our budget as a grant, like it would normally come in as, or do we actually put it in our budget as an expense out of general fund?
Like,
Because it's a
as opposed to a
creation
new
of a-
person, like.
Yeah. What you think, Mr.?
I'll take a look at it. I'm really interested in hearing back from Judge Thacker
I'll
on
get him to
how
call
we
you today.
pursue this.
I'll get him to call you today.
Okay. All right, this is the time,
Okay,
if
so
you've
that was
got
the one.
questions other than that question,
When the Superior Court came in and asked for their pay bumps, we talked about how that was extraordinary because it had to be done in conjunction with the other 3 counties that are but that there's still a bunch of folks that do essentially those same jobs for the state court, but that's part of our budgeting cycle, not that. This includes moving those positions up to be in parity with the Superior Court, right? Like, the part-time solicitor, all the
It-
court staff and stuff, okay. That was my second, and then,
Say again?
so the state court, both the solicitor's office and Judge Thacker's courtroom, they have the same clerks and assistants and,
staff.
all the staff that like the Superior Court does. But the Superior Court comes out of a different budget that's made up of the budgets of all 4 counties. Well, when they came, they asked for whatever their cost of living bump was to move them to like the state level. But we couldn't move the state court stuff because that's done in our normal budgeting cycle. So I'm just making sure that we're still on track to move the state court people to the same, for doing the same job in this court that the people do in that court. Like the person who does the stenographer, like she's getting paid less in the state court than the person doing the exact same job in the Superior Court. Because, for now, but we're trying to move that so that they're the same pay, because it's the same job, it's just a
Did we
different
get a
court.
request for that?
Judge Thacker was here when Judge Sams was here, and the
I remember
request
him
was.
saying,
talked
oh,
about it.
this doesn't have anything to do with my court. I'm
Yeah,
not
that
asking
that
for
action didn't, because that's just the Superior Court, but it was,
But I don't recall him asking for that.
He didn't ask at that time. I think we were gonna wait until the
He
budget.
That's
hasn't
correct.
He was
asked
gonna
for it.
cover it through a certain period, and then I think we're supposed to come in and do it, right?
Right.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah,
was-
remember he
was
said that?
But I'm
wanting-
saying,
he
he's,
was-
nobody's made us an official request for that we've seen in a budget.
That's
Probably
the
did.
official request that begins July 1st. He did not ask for it in March when the rest
I
of
think
the
they're covering
courts
the 3
did.
months or
He
something.
put it as a part of his update for the next fiscal year budget.
And what was the total change for that?
Is it 35 or 6?
it wasn't that much. I mean, it was like 100 or something, like it wasn't.
I mean, if it's for his staff, the lawyer,
Yeah.
he's got a, he said his clerk is a lawyer,
Yeah.
so,
It's
you know, I'm
not,
talking
yeah,
about
judicial
how many
clerk is
people
different
in-
than so like a legal clerk, he's actual barred lawyer as opposed to
Yeah,
like
that's what he
a
said.
office assistant, you know what I mean?
And while Steve's looking up, she'll make one, don't forget to fill out your health insurance stuff too, because we got those packets, and I think it's due on June 3rd.
Yeah, Marsha Webb came and delivered it to my house, and my wife came out, and I was just like, "Here you go, CPA. Like, you can fill this out. I don't even know how to do with this. Here you go."
Was there some, the letter was addressed to full-time employees, so I assume that wasn't,
Well, you need to do your employee, your.
Yeah, you need to do 3 of the.
okay?
By June 3rd.
Okey
You
dokey.
just you just have to opt back in
Yes.
and like check the same boxes and go yes,
Okay,
yes, please.
thank you. I'm glad you mentioned that. I appreciate
Brian, you
it.
got that?
You done looking, or you still looking, Steve?
I'm still looking. It may be in the other room. I mean,
Okay.
to do exactly what Jenna told me to do, which was bring the big
So can you
roller
talk
in.
and look to it
Oh, here
sometime?
it is.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you talk and
He
look
can-
to?
he can-
Go ahead,
Yes.
you're still talking.
Oh, no, you can go ahead.
So while you're looking, Steve, I know you're multitasking over there. We are proposing a no tax increase. Is that what the agreement is with this? We're looking at this budget? Okay. So I can make sure that that's out there, that that's based on.
No millage rate increase.
No millage rate increase, right?
Like whether or not the state makes us
Got it.
say, because the value of
Roll
everyone's
back.
properties went up, like,
Okay.
we're not allowed to roll back, but it is currently our intent not to
But the
increase
millage rate
the
will
millage
stay at the, was it 16.38? Okay.
16.138.
16.138. And when do we actually vote on the budget? Do we do this in June, right?
Yes,
Okay, so we'll do this in June. All right.
and we
Okay.
won't do millage rate for a few
Until-
It's like
months after
September,
that.
yeah.
Okay.
The
weirdest
total
way to do
difference
government.
in salaries for state court, $17,000.
Okay.
Oh, that's it. Okay, I thought it was like that.
And that's for how many people? 3? Oh, he had to open his book back up. Sorry about that.
Uh,
Yeah, it's like 3 or 4. It's not-
Does
it's a
that
single digit.
doesn't include the judge, does it?
Yeah.
The judges is pegged to
Right.
the Superior Court, and so that happened when the Superior Courts got their raises, because his is related directly to theirs.
Oh, cause
His
I
is like
thought he
90%.
told me that he wasn't getting a raise when the Superior Court got theirs. That's why I'm confused.
I don't think he came back saying that he wanted one.
Well, he was trying to say, you don't have to give me mine until July when
the
you're
Right,
everybody else.
that's what-
But like his
And-
is by state law, like pegged to theirs, and so he called me back and went, hey, I was wrong. It's
He did
mine
the
is,
same thing. That's,
okay, I'm glad he called you too.
So question, is there any weight loss coverage in our health insurance plan?
Big
I-
shifting gears. I'm interested in that, cause, give me an incentive, I would love.
I asked you that yesterday, you hadn't had a chance to.
I have not had a
Probably
chance
not.
to do that. In fact,
Probably went down.
in 11 minutes, I have a meeting with Cigna.
Okay, so I would also like to know what the fund balance is going to be for fire, the fire fund. And you told us that you were gonna be funding the building of a new station out of their impact fee or out of their fire fund fee?
We'll bring that back to you. Right now, I'm looking to fund that out of a brick and mortar loan. So we will bring that information back to you.
Make another note of something that you don't have to look it up right now, but for years I've been, as a former felony public defender, I've been telling them, Alan Adams, like, ask for more money, ask for more money, ask for more money. You don't even have heaters that work. And I've been told this year they did ask for more. They traditionally it's been like $404,000 for all 5 courtrooms for the felony public defender. But I don't know if they told me they've asked for more. I don't know if they were given more. You don't have to tell me that.
All right.
Felony public, not the state court,
Okay?
and that's all my.
What we're trying to do is make sure there's no surprises when we get ready to get into the public hearing and then get ready to vote.
Right.
So this is the opportunity to look at it and say, oh, hey, I didn't understand. So if you haven't done homework and you need to do homework, get with Steve to be able to work it out on all of this. Okay?
I'm just looking at these new positions. They they were budgeted last year, or they're just being budgeted for this year?
They're budgeted for the new fiscal year, starting in July.
So I guess my thing is, like, for building inspectors and building officials, didn't we already have them covered in the budget this past year?
We did, those were contract employees. So we're showing them as new positions because we're looking to bring them back in-house.
Okay, so
But yes, there
is
was,
this going to cost us less than a contract employer? So you say building inspectors, is that two persons, is that, oh yeah, two people? And so that's, and one other person for community development. We have no building inspectors now?
we do not, none in-house, they're contracted out.
Yes.
And the answer to your question is, that is the information that we are receiving is, in the way that we are advertising the positions would be less than our current contract pays.
Okay, so the paramedic position with the fire department, do we already have paramedics on staff?
We do have one or two on staff. This would be for a very specific purpose for the fire department, and it would be to run a medical support unit while our EMS and ambulances are waiting on the wall. The reason that we're doing it is because we have had extended wait wall times up to 6 hours, where our paramedics are having an extended delayed time for service to calls. This would afford us the opportunity to arrive, package the patient for a much quicker response to emergency care.
So the paramedic that we have now, does he just ride a regular truck?
He rides a truck, yes ma'am. And he is on a shift.
I guess what I'm trying to figure out is,
And we may have more than one or two. I think we've got a few, but it's not many.
so yeah, I guess my question would be, why not take one of, you said paramedic lieutenant? That means you got to have been in the fire department for a minute to be a lieutenant, so that's another whole thing. How different is that from the pay that the normal paramedic is getting, and is a normal paramedic automatically elevated to the position of lieutenant?
No, they are not elevated to the position of lieutenant. This position would be very solely focused on the times that we run for our data-driven decisions, for when we are seeing the most significant calls for service for paramedics. They will be placed on a rescue truck to respond in front of, or in lieu of, and waiting on an ambulance when our medic units are sitting at the hospital.
But we already have staff that are quick responders. Don't we have staff that go out prior to the emergency vehicle coming out, like first on the scene?
We respond with a fire truck.
So that must be in the city, because every time that I see a fire truck or an ambulance going down the street, about a minute or so before, I see an emergency rescue vehicle, a quick response vehicle. Not sure if it's the city, but I thought that the county also had a quick response vehicle. And then my other concern is this, is that if we do have paramedics sitting on the wall, they don't ride like Spalding, they're not the regular ambulance.
This isn't our guys. The wait time on the wall are the ambulances that are the Wellstar people.
Right, but you're saying that if they're on the wall and somebody has to go out to a response, that paramedic, that paramedic can't come, but the rest of them can. So I'm just not really sure about how come, I don't understand why a paramedic is necessary to stand on the wall.
If they're assigned to the Wellstar ambulance, not our employee, but as a Wellstar ambulance employee, we have seen extended periods of time waiting on the wall in the last 6 months, to the tune of about 6 hours. And that's slowing the response for the ambulances down for emergency calls. Our fire department with Chief Byrd and Chief Polk have done just a fabulous job at responding, putting fire trucks out and responding, getting patients ready to be put into the ambulance and moved, waiting for the ambulance to arrive. Not a bad thing. This is actually a really good thing, and COVID was a huge part of pushing us in this direction. When we had
We're all done.
issues with COVID on the wall,
See you guys. Thank you.
patients, and our ambulances were waiting for the emergency staff to take those patients into the emergency room. Our fire department was responding and with a truck, responding to take care of patients on the side of the road, and they were sitting waiting for ambulances to arrive. The option that we have sitting in front of us is to not put any more miles in wear and tear on the vehicles that are taking us 2 years to obtain, the fire trucks, but take a smaller rescue unit to do the same model that you've seen inside the city, to take a small rescue unit, assign a paramedic to that rescue unit, and move in a direction that's taking care of the patients, getting that patient ready to be transported by ambulance, and then being available for the next call. Because we could see another surge in COVID, and that's what this is in response to, where we have that emergency vehicle going in front of the ambulance, taking care of the patients that we're having across the county. This is a wonderful service that is not a lot of money in the grand scheme of taking care of our residents.
Okay, will this person be assigned another vehicle, first response vehicle?
They will, yes.
And do we have the first response vehicle?
That's, if you look at the vehicles, the LS startup vehicle is $62,500 to the fire department. It's the last item listed under vehicle equipment and purchased on the first page.
I'll see you tomorrow at the senior center. I gotta roll.
So I'm looking at the stuff, vehicles and equipment. Any of this coming from T-Splosh? What's ALS mean? Tell me what that means.
Advanced life support.
Okay.
See ya. Thank you, lady.
See you tomorrow.
Okay, so that's that vehicle. I know there's a pull behind blower for motor grader.
For the west side.
None of this can be transportation?
I don't think so. Maybe, but I don't think it was listed on the items for the T-Splosh.
I know it, but we have money set aside for transportation, so I'm saying in T-Splosh, I'm just trying to figure out, I mean, it's not huge, $196,000, but I'm saying, obviously, a motor grader.
The motor graders were, and they were already put in for the T-Splosh side. That's why you're not seeing the motor graders here.
Hybrid utility trailer for right-of-way crew.
Yeah, that one was not a part of the T-Splosh items listed, so we are staying very, very true to the items that were listed on our T-Splosh referendum.
Good. Good.
How many vehicles is the sheriff department getting annually?
I can't answer on the annual side. This year it's 9. I'm very proud of the sheriff. He is being very frugal with the monies that are going through the sheriff's department.
$350 dually truck for the fire department, what's that for?
That is for one of their brush fire units. It is a quick response vehicle for the brush fire unit.
Okay, but didn't we have 1 or 2 brush fire vehicles already that we purchased?
We do.
And how often are they having to do anything with brush fire?
Quite a lot. We're using these as backups for the fire trucks.
What do you mean?
So instead of sending 2 large fire trucks, we may be able to get by with one of the large fire trucks and one of the smaller units. I am very proud of our fire department for looking out for how often they run their units, because hours and time on scene is extraordinarily expensive. So they are being extremely efficient with how they're responding to the fire calls.
So, then, my other question about the 15-passenger van, what is Public Works needing a 15-passenger van for?
So they do crews, so cleanup crews, whether it's trash for Randy King's side for solid waste, or whether it's for a new opportunity that we're putting into play, which is picking up trash on the side of the roads.
So what I'm saying is that there is no work crew that has 15 people in it.
No, but
You
the
hardly find a work crew that's got 5 people in it, so I'm just trying to understand why we need a 15-passenger van.
Very true. The 15-passenger van also doubles as a trailer. So they take the back seat out and they're able to put all of their equipment in the back of the van. They need that size of the van to carry their weed eaters, their tools, their blowers, the trash bags. They don't just buy a small piece of equipment to drag behind a regular
Well, I mean,
8-passenger van.
that's what they did before.
It is.
They had a trailer, they rode in the 2 or 3 passenger, 5 passenger, whatever, in the truck. And part of the problem was that we didn't have people who had a CDL. So my other thing is, who's gonna be, you have to have a CDL to drive this. Many of the people out there don't have a CDL. So I'm just, you know, I just don't understand what that's for.
Okay,
Okay, let me go.
Sidebar.
I got that one.
I want to talk about this in here. Our meeting room stinks. It doesn't literally smell, but the floor is just nasty. It's got, I mean, I know you told me about that, about what happened, but when people come into this room, this is what they see. A carpet that looks like people been eating in the room. So,
Kudos to Lance. This past Friday, we had the carpet guy come, and we will have a quote for the board to consider to replace the carpet within the next week.
but what about whatever it was that was under it that made it come through the floor?
We have a plan to take care of that as well.
Okay. Computers to be purchased. Why are we purchasing a computer for the accountability court?
Let me catch up with you. This would be for the one person, the part-time person that Commissioner Dutton was just speaking about. It was listed in there in the request, but when we sent back the person, I did not take that computer out until Judge Thacker brought back the justification for that additional person.
Okay, so what I'm saying is that treatment provider is a medical professional. They should have their own laptop. They are not affiliated with us as a county. So, I mean, it's only $1,500, but if I was a nurse and I went to somebody's house, I wouldn't expect them to have a computer there for me to be able to do my work on. My job should be providing that.
Okay.
Title change.
Correctional Institute, they're going to, so they've never had their computers redone. They're getting 11 new desktop computers.
Yes, ma'am, they are now on a cycle for replacement, and they will be approximately 11 every year for the number that they have that will be
Okay.
spanned over a number of years. I think it's
Good.
4 or 5.
Good.
Community development. Okay. I think I had one more question. I wanted to know about the fund balance. What are we looking at, the fund balance for fire after all of their expenses, and the fund balance for the county? And is that the only project that will have a fund balance that we would be concerned about?
Yes, ma'am.
And then something that we have not discussed at all. What is our plan going forward for trying to rebuild our fund balance? Which will be at about 3 million as opposed to the 8 or 9 million we've been trying to hold in. I think we need to talk about that in terms of how we're gonna, I don't know if we can even approach it in any way in this budget, but we certainly need a plan to look for building it back up. The guy who came here and did, I guess it was King and Spalding. I think he made it clear to us that we really need to, try to get our fund balance back up because it
Yes.
has an effect on what our bond ratings are and stuff like that.
Absolutely agree.
That's all I got.
Awesome. Okay.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second? Any more discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. 3-0.
Probably stay-
Motion carries. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Steve, what time's those other people meeting?
1:30?
Okay.
You talking, isn't that?
Yeah, either one. Steve, Clay, yeah.
Yes.
And the forum is
One-
tomorrow?
1:30.
Okay.
And I have to